Did you know Dani knew that Ser Jorah wanted to kiss her again? Your Grace, I did not mean to give offense, Whitebeard said. Only lies offend me, never honest counsel. I have a dragon's temper, that's all. You must not let it frighten you. I shall try and remember, Whitebeard smiled. He has a good face, and great strength to him, Dani thought. She could not understand why Ser Jorah mistrusted the old man so. Could he be jealous that I found another man to talk to? Unbidden, her thoughts went back to the night on Balerion when the exile knight had kissed her. He should never have done that. He is thrice my age and of too low birth for me, and I never gave him leave. She had taken care never to be alone with Ser Jorah after that, keeping her handmaids with her aboard ship, and sometimes her blood riders. He wants to kiss me again. I see it in his eyes. Jorah's kiss made Dani realize something. What Dani wanted, she could not begin to say. But Jorah's kiss had woken something in her, something that had been sleeping since Khal Drogo died. Lying abed in her narrow bunk, she found herself wondering how it would be to have a man squeezed in beside her in place of her handmaid, and the thought was more exciting than it should have been. Sometimes she would close her eyes and dream of him, but it was never Ser Jorah Mormont she dreamed of. Her lover was always younger and more comely, though his face remained a shifting shadow. Did you know in the books, Shae offers to be Tyrion Lannister's official lady, but when Tyrion says it couldn't be possible because it wasn't safe, she suggested killing Cersei. My love for you shames me enough. A sweet dream, Shae. Now put it aside, I beg you. It can never be. Because of the Queen? I'm not afraid of her either. I am. Then kill her and be done with it. It's not as if there were any love between you. Tyrion sighed. She's my sister. The man who kills his own blood is cursed forever in the sights of gods and men. Moreover, whatever you and I may think of Cersei, my father and brother hold her dear. I can scheme with any man in the Seven Kingdoms, but the gods have not equipped me to face Jaime with swords in hand. It is sad that Tyrion's love for Jaime is actually what prevented Tyrion from ever just killing Cersei. Before filming Game of Thrones Season 4, Nikolaj Costa played a prank on HBO by pretending he'd shaved his iconic golden hair. He sent them an old photo of himself with a buzz cut, claiming he'd taken creative control of Jaime's look for artistic integrity. HBO didn't find it funny. They believed him, called his manager, and even discussed legal action. It got out of control, he admitted. Ironically, Jaime did get a shorter haircut that season. So in the end, Costa's joke partially came true. Right before the Battle of Blackwater, when Sansa is seeing off Joffrey, she completely roasted him when he said he would kill Stannis in combat. Joffrey owned a sword named Lion's Tooth once, Sansa remembered. Arya had taken it from him and thrown it in a river. I hope Stannis does the same with this one. It is beautifully wrought, Your Grace. Bless my steel with a kiss. He extended the blade down to her. Go on, kiss it. He had never sounded more like a stupid little boy. Sansa touched her lips to the metal, thinking that she would kiss any number of swords sooner than Joffrey. The gesture seemed to please him though. He sheathed the blade with a flourish. You'll kiss it again when I return and taste my uncle's blood. Only if one of your Kingsguard kills him for you, Sansa thought. Cleos Freyr returns with numerous envoys to Riverrun to deliver King's Landing's response to Robb Stark's term. However, the envoys try to free Jaime Lannister only to fail, resulting in Edmure Tully hanging them. Catelyn Stark right away believed this was all Tyrion's plan. This was the imp's work, Catelyn suspected. It stank of the same sort of cunning he had displayed at the Eyrie. Once she would have named Tyrion the least dangerous of the Lannisters. Now she was not so certain. There was actually one moment when Cersei actually showed Tyrion sisterly affection when Tyrion arranged for Littlefinger to visit the Tyrells to convince them to have Margaery marry Joffrey. Tyrion, I know we do not always agree on policy, but it seems to me that I was wrong about you. You are not so big a fool as I imagined. In truth, I realize now that you have been a great help. For that, I thank you. You must forgive me if I have spoken to you harshly in the past. Must I? Sweet sister, you have said nothing that requires forgiveness. Today, you mean? They both laughed. and Cersei leaned over and planted a quick, soft kiss on his brow. Too astonished for words, Tyrion could only watch her stride off down the hall, Sir Preston at her side. Have I lost my wits, or did my sister just kiss me? Sansa Stark makes a reference to the twins, Sir Eric and Sir Eric from House of the Dragon. When Joffrey Baratheon was deriding Tommen for crying by saying princes don't cry, Sansa replied, Prince Aemon the Dragon Knight cried the day Princess Nerys wed his brother Aegon. And the twins, Sir Eric and Sir Eric, died with tears on their cheeks after each had given the other a mortal wound. Be quiet, or I'll have Sir Mirren give you a mortal wound, Joffrey told his betrothed. Tyrion glanced at his sister, but Cersei was engrossed in something Sir Balon Swan was telling her. Can she truly be so blind as to what he is? In the show, Cersei knew that Joffrey was a monster, but in the book, Cersei seemed to genuinely think that Joffrey had the making to be a great king, which goes to show how delusional and unstable book Cersei really is. Despite suggesting to try and convince the Tyrells to join the Lannisters and have Joffrey Baratheon marry Margaery, Tyrion Lannister didn't expect them to accept the offer at all. There had been no word from Peter Baelish since he had ridden off for Bitterbridge. That might mean nothing, or everything. Even Varys could not say. The eunuch had suggested that perhaps Littlefinger had met some misfortune on the roads. He might even be slain. Tyrion had snorted in derision. If Littlefinger is dead, then I'm a giant. More likely, the Tyrells were balking at the proposed marriage. Tyrion could scarcely blame them. If I were Mace Tyrell, I would sooner have Joffrey's head on a pike than his in my daughter. It is funny that Tyrion Lannister had no faith in the Lannister-Tyrell alliance, considering it was the Lannisters' only hope for victory. Daenerys Targaryen was somewhat offended that she wasn't the target of a poison attempt while she was in Qarth. This is because it showed the pureborn of Qarth didn't see her as a serious threat. The pureborn were notorious for offering poisoned wine to those they thought dangerous, but they are not given Dany so much as a cup of water. They never saw me for a queen, she thought bitterly. I was only an afternoon's amusement, a horse girl with a curious pet. The small folk during the King's Landing riot made plenty of remarks that were not included in the show. Bastard, someone screamed at Joffrey. Bastard monster. Other voices flung calls of and at the Queen, while Tyrion was pelted with shouts of freak and half-man. Mixed in with the abuse he heard a few cries of justice and Robb, King Robb, the young wolf, of Stannis, and even Renly. Following the King's Landing riots, there was a rare nice moment where Cersei Lannister defended Tyrion by commanding Sir Meryn and Sir Boros to obey his commands. Tyrion turned to the 3 remaining knights of the Kingsguard. Each of you will ride escort to a herald. Command the people to return to their homes. Any man found on the streets after the last peal of the Evenfall bell will be killed. Our place is beside the king, Sir Meryn said, complacent. Cersei reared up like a viper. Your place is where my brother says it is, she spat. The hand speaks with the king's own voice, and disobedience is treason. Boros and Meryn exchanged a look. Should we wear our cloaks, your grace? Sir Boros asked. Go naked for all I care. It might remind the mob that you're men. They're like to have forgotten after seeing the way you behaved out there in the street. Jacelyn Bywater, Janos Slynn's replacement as City Watch Commander, reveals to Tyrion Lannister why his men, and likely the small folk, despise Tyrion the most. His grace is but a boy. In the streets, it is said that he has evil counselors. The Queen has never been known as a friend to the commons, nor is Lord Varys called the Spider out of love. But it is you they blame most. Your sister and the eunuch were here when times were better under King Robert, but you were not. They say that you filled the city with swaggering sellswords and unwashed savages, brutes who take what they want and follow no laws but their own. They say you exiled Janos Slynt because you found him too bluff and honest for your liking. They say you threw wise and gentle Pycelle into the dungeons when he dared raise his voice against you. Some even claim that you mean to seize the Iron Throne for your own. Perhaps my Lord Father was right to despise me all these years. If this is the best I can achieve, Tyrion thought when he was alone. Cersei Lannister looks to compete with Tyrion's force of sellswords by getting her own through Osmond Kettleback and his brothers. However, Tyrion was one step ahead by having Lancel Lannister feed him information about it and also having Bronn match whatever she paid to the Kettlebacks. "I know your secret, Cersei," he thought. His sister had oft called upon the High Septon of late to seek the blessings of the gods in their coming struggle with Lord Stannis. Or so she would have him believe. In truth, she would steal off to meet Sir Osmond Kettleback and his equally unsavory brothers, Osney and Osfrid. Well, let's hear your plots. She was much sweeter when she thought she was outwitting him. The Kettleblacks would charm her, take her coin, and promise her anything she asked. And why not, when Bronn was matching every copper penny, coin for coin? Jacelyn Bywaters, Janos Slynt's replacement as City Watch commander, had an interesting bit of dialogue with Tyrion following the King's Landing riot and why his own men could not be relied on. "My men are largely drawn from the small folk. They walk in the same streets, drink in the same wine sinks, spoon down their bowls of brown in the same pot shops. Your eunuch must have told you, there is small love for the Lannisters in King's Landing. Many still remember how your Lord Father sacked the city when Aerys opened the gates to him. They whisper that the gods are punishing us for the sins of your house, for your brother's murder of King Aerys, for the butchery of Rhaegar's children, for the execution of Eddard Stark, and the savagery of Joffrey's justice. Some talk openly of how much better things were when Robert was king, and hint that times would be better again with Stannis on the throne. In pot shops and wine sinks, you hear these things, and in the barracks and guard halls as well, I fear. They hate my family. Is that what you are telling me?" Tyrion replied. "Aye, and we'll turn on them if the chance comes." It's revealed by Storm End's castellan Sir Courtney Penrose that Brienne of Tarth actually visited Storm's End when she was younger and knew her well. Prior to that, Renly Baratheon visited Tarth and treated her well, and she fell in love with him ever since. That is why Penrose can confidently state that Brienne didn't kill Renly. "A lie," Sir Courtney said. "I knew Brienne when she was no more than a girl, playing at her father's feet in Evenfall Hall, and I knew her still better when the Evenstar sent her to Storm's End. She loved Renly Baratheon from the first moment she laid eyes on him. A blind man could see it." So, in the book, Brienne's love for Renly was more romantic and girlish, whereas in the show, they portrayed it as that she knew he was gay, but he was the only person who treated her well, and so she wanted to serve him. Cersei Lannister planned on having Tommen in disguise and removed from King's Landing to be sent to Roseby. Tyrion Lannister, in a rare moment, actually commended Cersei for this idea, not only for the sake of Tommen's protection, but for also making things more difficult for Stannis should he successfully take King's Landing. Removing the boy from the city was one of his sister's better notions, Tyrion had decided. At Roseby, Tommen would be safe from the mob, and keeping him apart from his brother also makes things more difficult for Stannis. Even if he took King's Landing and executed Joffrey, he'd still have a Lannister claimant to contend with. That way, Tywin could keep Tommen in his possession and continue to fight with Tommen as the rightful king of Westeros. This would make for a very fun what-if scenario if the Tyrell-Lannister alliance hadn't worked out. Stannis Baratheon didn't get Storm's End automatically after Renly's death as seen in the show. The castellan of Storm's End, Courtney Penrose, refused to give it over as he didn't want to surrender Edric Storm, Robert's bastard. "Remain as before," said Stannis. "I will pardon you for your treason, as I have pardoned these lords you see behind me. The men of your garrison will be free to enter my service or to return unmolested to their homes. You may keep your weapons and as much property as a man can carry. I will require your horses and pack animals, however. And what of Edric Storm? My brother's bastard must be surrendered to me." "Then my answer is still no, my lord." Like he did to Renly, Stannis offered one last chance. In the end, another one of Melisandre's shadow babies ended up killing Penrose. There's a moment between Tyrion Lannister, Bronn, and Varys where it suggested that the best option was to have Tommen replace Joffrey Baratheon. Ever think how easy life would be if the other one had been born first? Bronn said. The weepy one, Tommen. Seems like he'd do whatever he was told, as a good king should. A chill crept down Tyrion's spine as he realized what the sellsword was hinting at. If Tommen was king, there was only one way Tommen would become king. No, he could not even think of it. Joffrey was his own blood, and Jaime's son as much as Cersei's. I could have your head off for saying that, he told Bronn, but the sellsword only laughed. Friends, said Varys, quarreling will not serve us. I beg you both, take heart. Whose? Asked Tyrion sourly. He could think of several tempting choices. This is how Tyrion Lannister reacted to the news that Stannis Baratheon had gained control of Storm's End. Lord Varys informs him. Dismay drove all other thoughts from Tyrion's mind. When Shae returned with the wine, he took one sip and flung the cup away to explode against the side of the house. She raised a hand to shield herself from the shards as the wine ran down the stones in long fingers, black in the moonlight. Damn him, Tyrion said. Varys smiled, showing a mouthful of rotted teeth. Who, my lord? Sir Courtney or Lord Stannis? Both of them. Storm's End was strong. He should have been able to hold out for half a year or more. Time enough for his father to finish with Robb Stark. This only goes to show just how much the threat of Stannis loomed over the Lannisters at the time. There's a moment where Tyrion Lannister actually slaps Shae for mocking him. I was expressively forbidden to take you to court. By your stupid father, Shae pouted. You're old enough to keep all the you want. Does he want you to take a beardless boy? What could he do? Spank you? He slapped her. Not hard, but hard enough. Damn you, he said. Damn you, never mock me, not you. For a moment, Shae did not speak. The only sound was the cricket, chirping, chirping. Beg pardon me, lord, she said at last, in a heavy wooden voice. I never meant to be impudent, and I never meant to strike you, Tyrion thought. Gods be good, am I turning into Cersei? Tyrion then goes on to confess the story of Tysha to Shae, which the show had take place in Season 1 with Bronn and Shae before the Battle of the Green Fork. Edric Storm, the original book version of Gendry in the show, is initially wanted by Stannis Baratheon for proof that Joffrey Baratheon was a bastard. This realization comes to Catelyn Tully when she receives news that Storm's End was taken by Stannis. Stannis means to parade his brother's bastard before the realm, so men might see Robert in his face and wonder why there is no such likeness in Joffrey. Stannis eventually gets a hold of Edric Storm and sends him to Dragonstone for Melisandre, who plans on burning him. But just like in the show, Davos Seaworth frees him instead. It was Lord Varys who suggested to Tyrion Lannister to have Shae be a handmaiden for Lolly Stokeworth. Prior to that, Tyrion was considering have Shae work in the kitchen for her safety, but Shae didn't want to because she thought it was beneath her. It might be that there is another way, Varys said. As it happens, the maidservant who attends Lady Tanda's daughter has been filching her jewels. Were I to inform Lady Tanda, she would be forced to dismiss the girl at once, and the daughter would require a new maidservant. I see. This had possibilities, Tyrion saw at once. A lady's bedmaid wore finer garb than a scullion, and often even a jewel or two. Shae should be pleased by that, and Cersei thought Lady Tanda tedious and hysterical, and Lolly's a bovine lackwit. She was not like to pay them any friendly calls. This was Tyrion Lannister's confession to Lysa Arryn. Say what you will, she commanded Tyrion, and now to roll the dice, he thought, with another quick glance back at Bronn. Where to begin? I am a vile little man, I confess it. My crimes and sins are beyond counting, my lords and ladies. I have laid with not once, but hundreds of times. I have wished my own lord father dead, and my sister, our gracious queen, as well. Behind him, someone chuckled. I have not always treated my servants with kindness. I have gambled. I have even cheated, I blush to admit. I have said many cruel and malicious things about the noble lords and ladies of the court. That drew outright laughter. Once Silence! Lysa Arryn's pale round face had turned a burning pink. What do you imagine you are doing, dwarf? Tyrion cocked his head to one side. Why, confessing my crimes, my lady. There's an interesting moment where Catelyn Stark reflects on how she was the one who did her duty no matter what. I gave Brandon my favor to wear, and never comforted Peter once he was wounded, nor bid him farewell when father sent him off. And when Brandon was murdered and father told me I must wed his brother, I did so gladly, though I never saw Ned's face until our wedding day. I gave my maidenhood to this solemn stranger and sent him off to his war and his king, and the woman who bore him his bastard, because I always did my duty. Tyrion Lannister made a reference to the Faceless Men when having a conversation with Lord Varys discussing how Storm's End Castellan, Courtney Penrose, died. And for Sir Courtney's death, well, we know Stannis hired cell sales from the Free Cities. Perhaps he bought himself a skilled assassin as well. A very skilled assassin, Varys replied. There are such. I used to dream that one day I'd be rich enough to send a faceless man after my sweet sister. At one point, Catelyn Stark thinks about who Jon Snow's mother was and whether the real mother had any hard feelings towards Ned. Arya was the only one to show much of Ned in her features, and Jon Snow, but he was never mind. She found herself thinking of Jon's mother, that shadowy secret love her husband would never speak of. Does she grieve for Ned as I do? Or does she hate him for leaving her bed for mine? Does she pray for her son as I have prayed for mine? They were uncomfortable thoughts and futile. If Jon had been born of a Shara Dane of Starfall, as some whispered, the lady was long dead. If not, Catelyn had no clue who or where his mother might be. And it made no matter. Ned was gone now, and his loves and his secrets had all died with him. The scene with Jon Snow and Ygritte goes a bit differently. In the show, Ygritte escapes after Jon hesitates to execute her. However, in the books, while Jon also hesitates, he actually willingly lets her go. Do it, she urged him after a moment. Bastard, do it. I can't stay brave forever. When the blow did not fall, she turned her head to look at him. Jon lowered his sword. Go, he muttered. Ygritte stared. Now, he said, before my wits return. Go. She went. Prior to the Battle of Blackwater, Tyrion Lannister was doing everything he could to help King's Landing defend itself against Stannis, including getting the favor of the gods. I want the gods on our side, Tyrion told the new High Septon that he personally chose. Tell them that Stannis has vowed to burn the great scepter of Baelor. Is it true, my lord? Asked the High Septon, a small shrewd man with a wispy white beard and wizened face. Tyrion shrugged. It may be. Stannis burned the gods' wood at Storm's End as an offering to the Lord of Light. If he'd offend the old gods, why should he spare the new? Tell them that. Tell them that any man who thinks to give aid to the usurper betrays the gods as well as his rightful king. Even Sansa hears about this and wants Stannis to burn the sept, since they have never answered her. Sansa Stark actually wanted Stannis Baratheon to burn the great sept of Baelor if he took King's Landing. Is it true Lord Stannis burnt the gods' wood at Storm's End? Dantas nodded. He made a great pyre of the trees as an offering to his new god. The Red Priestess made him do it. They say she rules him now, body and soul. He's vowed to burn the great sept of Baelor too, if he takes the city. Let him. When Sansa had first beheld the great sept with its marble walls and 7 crystal towers, she thought it was the most beautiful building in the world. But that had been before Joffrey beheaded her father on its steps. I want it burned. Hush, child, the gods will hear you. Why should they? They never hear my prayers. Yes, they do. They sent me to you, didn't they? Ramsay Bolton was actually in Winterfell posing as Reek when Theon Greyjoy took the castle. After previously abducting Lady Donella Hornwood, Ramsay and the real Reek were pursued by Roderick Castle's men. During a hunt, Ramsay and killed a woman, then disguised Reek as himself while he smeared himself with the woman's feces. He instructed Reek to ride to the Dreadfort, but Reek was killed by Roderick's men. When they returned to Winterfell, they mistook Ramsay for Reek and took him prisoner. He says they call him Reek. Can't think why, Theon said smiling. Do you always smell so bad? Or did you just finish pig? Have an No one since they took me, my lord. Heek's me true name. I was in service to the bastard of the Dreadford, till the Starks gave him an arrow in the back for a wedding gift. Theon found that amusing. Who did he marry? The widow or Hornwood, my lord? That crone, was he blind? She has like empty wineskins, dry and withered. It wasn't her teats he wed her for, my lord. It was from there where Ramsay won Theon's favor by offering to serve him before eventually betraying him. This is what Jaime thought of Renly and Stannis Baratheon. When Jaime asked for an update from Catelyn on how the war is going, she says, Stannis marches against King's Landing, she said grudgingly. Renly is dead, murdered at Bitterbridge by his brother, through some black art I do not understand. A pity, Jaime said. I rather liked Renly. Though Stannis is quite another tale. What side have the Tyrells taken? Renly at first. Now I could not say. It would have been cool to see Renly and Jaime together. How did Reek, who was Ramsay Bolton in disguise, trick Theon Greyjoy before eventually betraying him? With Arsha Greyjoy sparing Theon only 10 men to hold Winterfell, Ramsay offered him 200 men. Well, might be I could help you, said Reek. Give me a horse and a bag of coin and I could find you some good fellows. Theon narrowed his eyes. How many? 100, might be. 200, maybe more. He smiled, his pale eyes glinting. 200 men were not an army, but you didn't need thousands to hold a castle as strong as Winterfell. Do as you say and you'll not find me ungrateful. You can name your own reward. Reek was gone before the sun went down, carrying a bag of Stark silver and the last of Theon's hopes. Like as not, I'll never see the wretch again, he thought bitterly. But even so, the chance had to be taken. Catelyn Stark revealed to Brienne how she would have loved to take the heads of Theon Greyjoy and the Lannisters once she learned that Bran and Rickon were dead. I want them all dead, Brienne. Theon Greyjoy first, then Jaime Lannister, and Cersei, and the Imp. Everyone. Everyone. But my girls will. The Queen. She has a little girl of her own, Brienne said awkwardly. And sons too, of an age with yours. When she hears, perhaps she may take pity and send my daughters back unharmed? Catelyn smiled sadly. There is a sweet innocence about you, child. I could wish, but no. Robb will avenge his brothers. Ned would swing the blade, though he never took any joy in the duty. But I would. Oh yes. How did Jaime Lannister react to being accused by Catelyn Stark of sending an assassin to kill Bran? This scene was notably not included in the show. Did I now? Jaime lifted his cup and took a long swallow. I won't deny we talked of it, but you were with the boy, day and night. Your maester and Lord Eddard attended him frequently, and there were guards, even those damned direwolves. It would have required cutting my way through half of Winterfell. And why bother when the boy seemed like to die of his own accord? Catelyn doesn't believe him, so Jaime says, I may indeed have shit for honor, I won't deny it, but I have never yet hired anyone to do my killing. Believe what you will, Lady Stark, but if I had wanted your Bran dead, I would have slain him myself. Gods be merciful, he's telling the truth. Right before the Battle of Blackwater, Sansa Stark prayed for her family, but also notably prayed for Tyrion Lannister and the Hound. She sang for Bran and Rickon and Robb, for her sister Arya and her bastard brother Jon Snow away off on the wall. She sang for her mother and her father, for her grandfather Lord Holster and her uncle Edmure Tully, for her friend Jean Poole, for her old drunken King Robert, for Septa Mordane and Sir Dontos and Jory Castle and Maester Luwin, for all the brave knights and soldiers who would die today, and for the children and the wives who would mourn them. And finally, towards the end, she even sang for Tyrion the Imp and for the Hound. He is no true knight, but he saved me all the same, she told the mother. Save him if you can, and gentle the rage inside him. Arsha Greyjoy provided some sound counsel to Theon when he refused to come to Deepwood Moat with her. Instead, Theon wanted to continue ruling Winterfell despite not having enough men to help him hold the castle. Your prize will be the doom of you. Krakens rise from the sea, Theon. Or did you forget that during your years among the wolves? Our strength is in our longships. My wooden piss pot sits close enough to the sea for supplies and fresh men to reach me whenever they are needful. But Winterfell is hundreds of leagues inlands, ringed by woods, hills, and hostile holdfasts and castles, and every man in 1,000 leagues is your enemy now. Make no mistake. You made certain of that when you mounted those heads on your gatehouse. Asha shook her head. How could you be such a bloody fool? Children. How did Arya Stark react to the news of her brothers, Bran and Rickon, supposedly dying? She first heard about it during a conversation between Roose Bolton and Hosteen Frey. He has lost the North, insisted Hosteen Frey. He has lost Winterfell. His brothers are dead. For a moment, Arya forgot to breathe. Dead? Bran and Rickon? Dead? What does he mean? What does he mean about Winterfell? Joffrey could never take Winterfell. Never. Robb would never let him. Then she remembered that Robb was not at Winterfell. He was away in the west, and Bran was crippled and Rickon only 4. It took all her strength to remain still and silent, the way Syrio Forel had taught her, to stand there like a stick of furniture. She felt tears gathering in her eyes and willed them away. It's not true. It can't be true. It's just some Lannister lie. Stannis Baratheon's defeat at King's Landing led to Robb Stark's demise. Following the Battle of Blackwater, confidence in Robb's ability to defeat Tywin Lannister drastically reduced and was a catalyst for Roose Bolton switching sides. Sir Harry's Hay, who was a Frey on his mother's side, nodded vigorously. If Lord Tywin could defeat a seasoned man like Stannis Baratheon, what chance will our boy king have against him? He looked round to his brothers and cousins for support, and several of them muttered agreement. Someone must have the courage to say it, Sir Hosteen said. The war is lost. King Robb must be made to see that. Roose Bolton studied him with pale eyes. His Grace has defeated the Lannisters every time he has faced them in battle. He has lost the North, insisted Hosteen Frey. He has lost Winterfell. His brothers are dead. It was after this conversation that Roose Bolton sent North men to strike towards Duskendale, deliberately killing many Northern men. How did Sansa Stark react to Littlefinger being named Lord Paramount of the Trident in place of her family on her mother's side? Lord Paramount of the Trident, Sansa thought, and Lord of Harrenhal as well. She did not understand why that should make him so happy. The honors were as empty as the title granted to Helene the Pyromancer. Harrenhal was cursed, everyone knew that, and the Lannisters did not even hold it at present. Besides, the Lords of the Trident were sworn to Riverrun and House Tully, and to the king in the north. They would never accept Littlefinger as their liege, unless they are made to. Unless my brother and my uncle and my grandfather are all cast down and killed. The thought made Sansa anxious, but she told herself she was being silly. Robb has beaten them every time. He'll beat Lord Baelish too, if he must. Theon Greyjoy made a reference to the Dothraki when Bolton men sent by Reek arrived at Winterfell to supposedly help him. The crows came in the blue dust with the evening stars. The Dothraki believe the stars are spirits of the valiant dead, Theon said. Maester Luwin had told him that a long time ago. Dothraki, the horse lords across the narrow sea. Oh, them. Black Lauren frowned through his beard. Savages believe all manner of foolish things. Where is Robb's wife, Jean Westerling? As you may know, in the show, Robb marries Talissa, but in the books he marries Jean, who hails from the Westerlands. Jean isn't present during the Red Wedding like Talissa, but when she finds out what happened, she goes into mourning. Jaime Lannister later has her and Edmure Tully escorted to the Westerlands and orders his men to kill Jean if she makes any attempt to escape. Interestingly, Jean's mother, influenced by Tywin, had also secretly been giving Jean daily potions that prevented pregnancy, all in an attempt to prevent the North from having an heir. The last we see of Jean is from Jaime's point of view, where he notices her clothes were ripped in mourning for Rob and in rebellion against her mother. However, George has hinted she will play a larger role in The Winds of Winter. There is potential Frey civil war in the works. This is mainly due to Black Walder, who is arguably the best warrior House Frey has, but he is also the most disliked within his family, especially as he is known to sleep around with other Frey wives. In fact, some believe he played a part in his father, Rymon's death, as it puts him closer to being the heir of the twins. Black Walder's brother, Edwin, even fears he's next. "My brother had a hand in this, I'll wager. He allowed the outlaws to escape after they murdered Merritt and Peter, and this is why. With our father dead, there's only me left between Black Walder and the twins." This could lead to a plot where certain Freys go after Black Walder and we have Freys killing each other. It would also be a symbolic representation between the Freys and the Rat Cook, rats devouring their own. The Tyrells and Martells actually despise each other as houses. One would think it's because Oberyn Martell inadvertently turned Mace Tyrell's eldest son, Willis, into a cripple after knocking him off a horse during a tourney, preventing Willis from becoming a knight. However, Willis actually bears no ill will towards Oberyn, and the two remained in touch afterward. The real reason is that the two neighbors have warred for centuries, similar to how the Blackwoods and Brackens still hate each other. Right before the Red Wedding, Catelyn Stark was fearful that Lord Walder Frey would be insulted by Robb not taking part in Roslyn's bedding. As man and maid were carried from the hole, a trail of clothing behind them, Catelyn saw that Robb had also remained. Walder Frey was prickly enough to see some insult to his daughter in that. He should join in Roslyn's bedding, but is it my place to tell him so? She tensed until she saw that others had stayed as well. He will expect Robb to go though. She could almost hear the old man asking why His Grace did not want to see his daughter naked. Of course, we know what happened since Robb did stay. It would have been interesting if Robb had attended the bedding ceremony and somehow then found a way to escape, since he wouldn't have been in the death trap inside the Great Hall. Where is Greatjon Umber? If you remember in the show, Greatjon was the one who threatened Robb Stark only to have Grey Wind take a bite out of him. All that said, he is one of the more loyal Northerners, and while he dies off-screen in the show, he's actually alive in the books. Greatjon was present during the Red Wedding with some Freys tasked with getting him too drunk to fight. As the Red Wedding takes place, a drunk Greatjon still manages to kill 3 and is only subdued in chains thanks to the help of 8. As things stand in the books, he is still a prisoner at the Twins. Interestingly, half of the remaining Umbers plead fealty to Roose Bolton, likely to keep him alive, while the other half have taken up the cause of Stannis Baratheon to ensure they are on the winning side. Ramsay Bolton reveals his true identity to Theon Greyjoy differently than the show. Ramsay, posing as Rig, delivered on his promise to send Bolton men to help Theon keep Winterfell in exchange for a woman of his choice. It was when it was time to deliver on his promise that Theon learned the truth. "My sweet prince, there was a woman promised me. If I brought 200 men, well, I brought 3 times as many, and no green boys nor field hands neither, but my father's own garrison." Theon had given his word. This was not the time to flinch. Pay him his pound of flesh and deal with him later. "Harag," he said, "go to the kennels and bring Pala out for Ramsay." There was a smile on his plump lips, but none in those pale eyes. "Snow," my wife called me before she ate her fingers, but I say Bolton. His smile curled. "So you'd offer me a kennel girl for my good service. Is that the way of it?" There was a tone in his voice Theon did not like, no more than he liked the insolent way the Dreadfort men were looking at him. How did Maester Luwin die in the books? In the show, he was stabbed by the Ironborn Dagmar before crawling to the Godswood where Osha gave him the gift of mercy. In the books, however, it is a Bolton knight on a warhorse who planted a spear between his shoulders, then swung back to ride over him during the sack of Winterfell. While injured, he still managed to crawl to the Godswood, where he meets Bran Stark and company. A big difference in the books here is that he instructs Osha to split Bran and Rickon up, whereas in the show, he tells her to take them both up north. He is then given the gift of mercy by Osha. A theory as to why Luwin bothered to crawl to the Godswood is because he wanted to join the children of the forest who exist in the weirwood. This is what Tyrion thought after Sir Mandon tried to kill him off in the Battle of Blackwater. He remembered now the bridge of boats, Sir Mandon Moore, a hand, a sword coming at his face. If I had not pulled back, that cut would have taken off the top of my head. Jaime had always said that Sir Mandon was the most dangerous of the Kingsguard because his dead, empty eyes gave no hint to his intentions. I should never have trusted any of them. He'd known that Sir Meryn and Sir Boris were his sisters, and Sir Osmond later, but he had let himself believe that the others were not wholly lost to honor. Cersei must have paid him to see that I never came back from the battle. Why else? I never did Sir Mandon any harm that I know of. Tyrion touched his face. Another gift from my sweet sister. Qhorin Halfhand actually planned to have Jon Snow be a spy within the wildlings before they are caught. They only spare oathbreakers, those who join them, like Mance Rayder. And you. No, replied Jon. He shook his head. Never. I won't. You will. I command it of you. Command it? But our honor means no more than our lives, so long as the realm is safe. Are you a man of the Night's Watch? Yes, but there is no but, Jon Snow. You are or you are not. Jon sat up straight. I am. Then hear me. If we are taken, you will go over to them, as the wildling girl you captured once urged you. They may demand that you cut your cloak to ribbons, that you curse your brothers and your Lord Commander. You must not balk. Whatever is asked of you, do as they bid you. But in your heart, remember who and what you are, and watch. There's a funny moment between Jaime Lannister and his cousin Cleos Frey when they're traveling to King's Landing along with Brienne. Be quiet, monster, unless you mean to make me gag you, Brienne told Jaime. She's rude as well, isn't she, cuz? Jaime asked Sir Cleos. Though she has steel in her spine, I'll grant you. Not many men dare name me monster to my face. Though, behind my back, they speak freely enough, I have no doubt. Sir Cleos coughed nervously. Lady Brienne heard those lies from Catelyn Stark, no doubt. The Starks cannot hope to defeat you with swords, sir, so now they make you war with poisoned words. They did defeat me with swords, you chinless cretin, Jaime thought. It is interesting that Brienne is the only person to call Jaime a monster to his face, and probably why they do get so close in the books and show. Jaime Lannister, being escorted by Brienne as a prisoner, actually asked to get his head shaved and beard trimmed so that nobody would recognize him. The realm knows Jaime Lannister as a beardless knight with long golden hair. A bald man with a filthy yellow beard may pass unnoticed. I'd sooner not be recognized while I'm in irons. The reflection in the water was a man he did not know. Not only was he bold, but he looked as though he had aged 5 years in that dungeon. His face was thinner, with hollows under his eyes and lines he did not remember. I don't look as much like Cersei this way. She'll hate that. This is messed up, but a reason why Jaime and Cersei sleep with each other is because they look like each other. So it's actually themselves they are in love with. HBO is working on what they call a very big budget show set within the Game of Thrones universe that can only really be Aegon's Conquest, and they got the guy from the latest Batman film working on it. So hopefully they can do 1 season on Aegon's Conquest, 1 season on the Dornish Wars, 2 seasons on Maegor and Aenys, and another 2 seasons on King Jaehaerys the Conciliator. Obviously, this is just speculation, but it would be amazing. Catelyn Stark was not unhappy that Stannis Baratheon lost at the Battle of Blackwater. Stannis? What of Stannis? He lost the battle at King's Landing, Edmure said unhappily. His fleet was burned, his army routed. A Lannister victory was ill tidings, but Catelyn could not share her brother's obvious dismay. She still had nightmares about the shadow she had seen slide across Renly's tent and the way the blood had come flowing out through the steel of his gorget. Stannis was no more a friend than Lord Tywin. Stephen Delane, who played Stannis Baratheon, didn't know what he was doing when playing his character. He said, "I flicked the show on since leaving to see if I could figure out what was going on, but I couldn't." Liam Cunningworth, Darby Seaworth, is so passionate about the show, he invests in it in a way I think is quite moving. But it wasn't really my experience. I was entirely dependent on Liam to tell me what the scenes were about. I didn't know what I was doing until we'd finished filming, and it was too late. The damage had been done. I thought no one would believe in me, and I was rather disheartened by the end. I felt I'd build the castle on non-existent foundations. It is kind of a shame that Stephen regrets his performance on the show, but this honestly sounds like Dan and Dave's fault for not working with him better. How did Catelyn Stark react to the news that Tyrion Lannister may be dead following the Battle of Blackwater? Edmure is angry about Jaime's release. He was Robb's captive, your king's captive, and Robb charged me to keep him safe. Brienne will keep him safe. She swore it on her sword. That woman. She will deliver Jaime to King's Landing and bring Arya and Sansa back to us safely. Cersei will never give them up. Not Cersei, Tyrion. He swore it in open court, and the Kingslayer swore it as well. Jaime's word is worthless. As for the imp, it said he took an axe in the head during the battle. He'll be dead before your Brienne reaches King's Landing, if she ever does. Dead? Could the gods truly be so merciless? She had made Jaime swear 100 oaths, but it was his brother's promise she had pinned her hopes on. Tyrion Lannister was not pleased that Bronn was given lordship following the Battle of Blackwater. "What's that ugly thing on your chest?" Bronn grinned. "My knightly sigil. A flaming chain, green on a smoke-grey field. By your Lord Father's command. I'm Sir Bronn of the Blackwater now, imp. See you don't forget it." Tyrion put his hands on the featherbed and squirmed back a few inches against the pillows. "I was the one who promised you knighthood, remember?" Tyrion did not like that "by your Lord Father's command" at all. Lord Tywin had wasted little time. Moving his son from the Tower of the Hand to claim it for himself was a message anyone could read, and this was another. "I lose half my nose, and you gain a knighthood. The gods have a deal to answer for." His voice was sour. George R.R. Martin loves the new A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms series coming out later this year. He said, "I've seen all 6 episodes now, and I love them. Dunk and Egg have always been favorites of mine, and the actors we found to portray them are just incredible. The rest of the cast are terrific as well." He also said, "This one ranks as one of the best stories I've ever written, and I am so pleased it's a faithful adaptation as any reasonable man could hope for." In House of the Dragon, from the moment Viserys named Rhaenyra his heir, the realm was divided. But could it have been avoided? If Rhaenyra had married Aegon to unite the factions, would there have been peace? Or was the rivalry between the Targaryens, the Hightowers, and the Lords of Westeros too far gone? What do you think? Was the Dance of the Dragons avoidable? Or was the war always going to happen? In House of the Dragon, Viserys was a peaceful king, but the show makes it clear that his unwillingness to act led directly to war. By refusing to prepare Rhaenyra for her future as queen, and by allowing the Hightowers to gain influence, he set up the entire conflict. But was he weak, or just trying to hold the realm together? What do you think? Was Viserys a wise and kind king, or did he doom his own family? How did Stannis Baratheon actually escape the Battle of Blackwater in the books? In the show, we just see him being held back by his own men, but in the books, we get a bit more detail. How did Stannis escape? Tyrion Lannister asked Bronn. His Lannesi kept their galleys out in the bay, beyond your chain. When the battle turned bad, they put in along the bay shore and took off as many as they could. Men were killing each other to get aboard toward the end. How did Tyrion Lannister react to Cersei's treatment of Alalea in the books? Alileia's role was essentially taken by Ross in the show, and Tyrion had previously threatened Cersei before the Battle of Blackwater that whatever was done to her would be done to Tommen. I want you to go to my sister. Her precious son made it through the battle unscathed, so Cersei has no more need of a hostage. She swore to free Alileia once she did, 9 days ago, after the whipping, Bronn replied. Tyrion shoved himself up higher, ignoring the sudden stab of pain through his shoulder. Whipping? They tied her to a post in the yard and scourged her, then shoved her out the gate, naked and bloody. I promised my sister I would treat Tommen as she treated Alileia, he remembered aloud. He felt as though he might retch. How can I scourge an 8-year-old boy? But if I don't, Cersei wins. There's an interesting detail showing just how much influence Tywin Lannister's name had. It was when Tyrion Lannister recovered enough from his injuries from the Battle of Blackwater to go meet with his father. Maegor's Holdfast was the strongest place in the Red Keep, a castle within the castle, surrounded by a deep dry moat lined with spikes. The drawbridge was up for the night when they reached the door. Sir Meryn Trant stood before it in his pale armor and white cloak. Lower the bridge, Tyrion commanded him. The Queen's orders are to raise the bridge at night. Sir Meryn had always been Cersei's creature. The Queen's asleep, and I have business with my father. There was magic in the name of Lord Tywin Lannister. Grumbling, Sir Meryn Trant gave the command, and the drawbridge was lowered. Only Tywin's name can spark fear in any man in King's Landing. Littlefinger was the master manipulator, playing everyone like chess pieces. Then, in Season 7, he somehow gets outplayed by Sansa and Arya. Some fans love seeing him finally lose, while others felt it was too easy. Would the real Littlefinger ever let this happen? In the books, he's still playing the game. What do you think? Did the show do him justice? Or should his ending have been more clever? For seasons, Jaime went from an arrogant villain to one of the most complex characters. He redeemed himself, fought for the living, and seemed to move on from Cersei. But then in the final episodes, he goes back and dies with her. Some say it made sense. He always loved her. Others think it destroyed his redemption arc. What do you think? Tragic but fitting? Or did the show ruin his growth? There is a funny moment when Loras Tyrell tells Sansa Stark that Lady Olenna will be joining her supper with Margaery. Lady Olenna, she is to sup with you as well. Oh, said Sansa, I am talking to him, and he's touching me. He's holding my arm and touching me. The Queen of Thorns, she's called, isn't that right? It is, Sir Loras laughed. He has the warmest laugh, she thought as he went on. You'd best not use that name in her presence though, or you're like to get pricked. Sansa reddened. Any fool would have realized that no woman would be happy about being called the Queen of Thorns. Maybe I truly am as stupid as Cersei Lannister says. Desperately, she tried to think of something clever and charming to say to him, but her wits had deserted her. She almost told him how beautiful he was until she remembered that she'd already done that. Sansa Stark pondered if she should have taken the Hound's offer to leave King's Landing with him during the Battle of Blackwater. I wish the Hound were here. The night of the battle, Sandor Clegane had come to her chambers to take her from the city, but Sansa had refused. Sometimes she lay awake at night, wondering if she'd been wise. She had his stained white cloak hidden in a cedar chest beneath her summer silks. She could not say why she kept it. The Hound had turned craven, she'd heard it said. At the height of the battle, he had got so drunk the imp had to take his men. But Sansa understood. She knew the secret of his burned face. It was only the fire he feared. That night, the wildfire had set the river itself ablaze and filled the very air with green flame. Even in the castle, Sansa had been afraid. Outside, she could scarcely imagine it. We get some brief but interesting insights from Loras Tyrell on his abilities compared to his elder brother, Garland, who was notably not included in the show. On the edge of the yard, a lone knight with a pair of golden roses on his shield was holding off 3 foes. Even as they watched, he caught one of them alongside the head, knocking him senseless. "Is that your brother?" Sansa asked. "It is, my lady," said Sir Loras. Garland often trains against 3 men, or even 4. In battle it is seldom one against one, he says, so he likes to be prepared. He must be very brave. He is a great knight, Sir Loras replied. A better sword than me, in truth, though I'm the better lance. It is honestly a shame the show cut Loras's two older brothers, since it would have made the Tyrells so much more interesting. Jon Snow was confident the Night's Watch would be able to defeat the wildlings after seeing firsthand how their camps were disorganized. Jon had never seen so many wildlings. He wondered if anyone ever had. The camp goes on forever, he reflected, but it's more 100 camps than one, and each more vulnerable than the last. Stretched out over long leagues, the wildlings had no defenses to speak of, no pits nor sharpened stakes, only small groups of outriders patrolling their perimeters. Each group, or clan, or village had simply stopped where they wanted, as soon as they saw others stopping or found a likely spot. The free folk. If his brothers were to catch them in such disarray, many of them would pay for that freedom with their life's blood. They had numbers, but the Night's Watch had discipline, and in battle, discipline beats numbers 9 times of every 10, his father had once told him. The Tyrells actually planned to have Sansa Stark marry Willis Tyrell, not Loras like in the show. So how did Sansa react when she found out it wouldn't be Loras? Yes, I will. I would like that more than anything, to wed Sir Loras, to love him. Loras, Lady Olenna sounded annoyed. Don't be foolish, child. Kingsguard never wed. Didn't they teach you anything in Winterfell? We were speaking of my grandson Willis. He is a bit old for you, to be sure, but a dear boy for all that. Not the least bit oafish, and heir to Highgarden besides. Sansa felt dizzy. One instant her head was full of dreams of Loras, and the next they'd all been snatched away. Willis. She said stupidly. Courtesy is a lady's armor. You must not offend them. Be careful what you say. I do not know, Sir Willis. I have never had the pleasure, my lady. Is he as great a knight as your brothers? No, Marjorie said. He has never taken vows. Her grandmother frowned. Tell the girl the truth. The poor lad is crippled, and that's the way of it. He was hurt as a squire riding in his first tourney, Marjorie confided. His horse fell and crushed his leg. That snake of a Dornishman was to blame, that Oberyn Martell, and his maester as well. Mance Rayder reveals the real reason he deserted the Night's Watch. It wasn't for a crown or for a woman as Jon Snow guessed, but something else. After being attacked by a Shadowcat, Mance says, "My brothers feared I might die before they got me back to Maester Mullen at the Shadow Tower. So they carried me to a wildling village where we knew an old wise woman did some healing. She was dead, as it happened, but her daughter saw to me, cleaned my wounds, sewed me up, and fed me porridge and potions until I was strong enough to ride again. And she sewed up the rents in my cloak as well, with some scarlet silk from a shy that her grandmother had pulled from the wreck of a cog washed up on the frozen shore. It was the greatest treasure she had, and her gift to me. But at the Shadow Tower, I was given a new wool cloak from stores, black, and trimmed with black, to go with my black breeches and black shoes, my black doublet and black mail. The new cloak had no frays, nor rips, nor tears, and most of all, no red. The men of the Night's Watch dressed in black, Sir Denys Mallister reminded me sternly, as if I had forgotten. My old cloak was fit for burning now, he said. I left the next morning, for a place where a kiss was not a crime and a man could wear any cloak he chose. Sir Jorah Mormont warned Daenerys Targaryen about Aristan, who is Barristan Selmy, by alluding to the betrayals she would face. The warlocks in Karth told you that you would be betrayed 3 times, once for blood, and once for gold, and once for love. Dany was not like to forget. Miri Maz-Dur was the first, which means 2 traitors yet remain, and now these 2 appear. I find that troubling, yes. Never forget, Robert offered a lordship to the man who slays you. Mance Rayder reveals to Jon Snow how he was at Winterfell when Robert Baratheon came to name Ned Stark his hand. I wanted to see this, Robert, with my own eyes, king to king, and get the measure of your uncle Benjen as well. He was first ranger by then, and the bane of all my people. So I saddled my fleetest horse and rode. But, John objected, the wall can stop an army, but not a man alone. I took a lute and a bag of silver, scaled the ice near Long Barrow, walked a few leagues south of the new gift, and bought a horse. All in all, I made much better time than Robert, who was travelling with a ponderous great wheelhouse to keep his queen in comfort. A day south of Winterfell, I came up on him and fell in with his company. Free riders and hedge knights are always attaching themselves to a royal processions, and my lute gained me an easy acceptance. Cersei Lannister's plan to have Jaime close to her by him being named a Kingsguard backfired initially. Tywin had never been more furious. He could not object openly. Cersei had judged that correctly, but he resigned the handship on some thin pretext and returned to Castle Rock, taking his daughter with him. Instead of being together, Cersei and Jaime just changed places, and Jaime found himself alone at court, guarding a mad king while 4 lesser men took their turns dancing on knives in his father's ill-fitting shoes. When Davos Seaworth returned to Dragonstone after the Battle of Blackwater, he had plans to kill Melisandre, especially after 4 of his sons ended up dying in the battle. The Red Priestess had always seemed loyal to Stannis, until now. She had broken him, as a man breaks a horse. She would ride him to power if she could, and for that she gave my sons to the fire. I will cut the living heart from her breast and see how it burns. Tyrion Lannister was annoyed with Bronn for seeing Alalea at the brothel. Alalea was used by Tyrion as a cover to see Shae, and it was Alalea who was tortured by Cersei as she thought she was Tyrion's lover. Tyrion was on his 3rd cup before Pod finally returned with Bronn in tow. I hope the boy had a damn good reason for dragging me out of Chataea's, Bronn said as he seated himself. Chataea's, Tyrion said, annoyed. It's good to be a knight. No more looking for the cheaper brothels down the street, Bronn grinned. Now it's Alalea and Mary in the same featherbed with Sir Bronn in the middle. Tyrion had to bite back his annoyance. Bronn had as much right to bed Alalea as any other man, but still. I never touched her, much as I wanted to, but Bronn could not know that. He should have kept his thing out of her. He dare not visit Chataea's himself. We learn that Jaime actually had the chance to proclaim a new king. Tell them the Mad King is dead, he commanded. Spare all those who yield and hold them captive. Shall I proclaim a new king as well? Craighole asked, and Jaime read the question plain. Shall it be your father or Robert Baratheon, or do you mean to try to make a new dragon king? He thought for a moment of the boy Viserys, fled to Dragonstone, and of Rhaegar's infant son Aegon, still in Maegor's with his mother. A new Targaryen king, and my father as hand. How the wolves will howl, and the Stormlord choke with rage. For a moment he was tempted, until he glanced down again at the body on the floor in its spreading pool of blood. His blood is in both of them, he thought. Proclaim who you bloody well like, he told Craighole. Eventually, Ned Stark would find him there, sitting on the throne. Jorah Mormont tried to convince Daenerys to marry him after forcefully kissing her without her consent. That was not fitting. I am your queen, my queen, he said, and the bravest, sweetest, and most beautiful woman I have ever seen. Daenerys, your grace, he conceded. The dragon has 3 heads, remember? You have wondered at that. Ever since you heard it from the warlocks in the House of Dust. Well, here's your meaning. Balerion, Meraxus, and Vhagar, ridden by Aegon, Rhaenys, and Visenya, the 3-headed dragon of House Targaryen. 3 dragons and 3 riders. Yes, said Dany, but my brothers are dead. Rhaenys and Visenya were Aegon's wives as well as his sisters. You have no brothers, but you can take husbands. And I tell you truly, Daenerys, there is no man in all the world who will ever be half so true to you as me. Book Stannis is still alive, but the show gave him a brutal ending. He burns his daughter, loses a battle, and gets executed by Brienne, all within a few episodes. In the books, he's still leading an army and hasn't sacrificed Shireen. Show fans felt his downfall was rushed, while book fans believe he has a bigger role to play. What do you think? Was his fate deserved, or did the show mess up? Daenerys missed her brother while sailing. If he had been wiser and more patient, it would be him sailing west to take the throne that was his by rights. Viserys had been stupid and vicious, she had come to realize, yet sometimes she missed him all the same. Not the cruel, weak man he had become by the end, but the brother who had sometimes let her creep into his bed, the boy who told her tales of the Seven Kingdoms and talked of how much better their lives would be once he claimed his crown. There was a moment of tension between Ser Jorah Mormont and Ser Barristan Selmy, being referred to as Aristan at the time. He says, "I have seen 100 tournaments and more wars than I would wish, and however strong or fast or skilled a knight may be, there are others who can match him. A man will win a tourney one day and fall quickly in the next. A slick spot in the grass may mean defeat, or what you ate for supper the night before." He glanced at Ser Jorah, or a lady's favor knotted around an arm. Mormont's face darkened. "Be careful what you say, old man." Aristan had seen Ser Jorah fight at Lannisport, Dany knew, in the tourney Mormont had won with a lady's favor knotted around his arm. He had won the lady too, Lynesse of House Hightower, his second wife, highborn and beautiful, but she had ruined him and abandoned him, and the memory of her was bitter to him now. How did Robb Stark react to his mother, Catelyn, freeing Jaime Lannister in the books? Catelyn took a deep breath. "Say it. It cannot be avoided." "They will have told you what I did. Did they tell you my reasons?" "For the girls. I had 5 children. Now I have 3. It was at that point that Lord Karstark called her actions treason, to which Robb responded, enough. For just an instant, Robb sounded more like Brandon than his father. "No man calls my Lady of Winterfell a traitor in my hearing, Lord Rickard." When he turned to Catelyn, his voice softened. "If I could wish the Kingslayer back in chains, I would. You freed him without my knowledge or consent. But what you did, I know you did for love, for Arya and Sansa, and out of grief for Bran and Rickon. Love's not always wise, I've learned. It can lead us to great folly, but we follow our hearts, wherever they take us, don't we, Mother?" Catelyn Stark feared she had lost the trust and love of her son Robb when he returned to Riverrun. This was right after Catelyn had freed Jaime Lannister and was imprisoned soon after as a result. But now Robb was returned from the West, returned in triumph. "He will forgive me," Catelyn told herself. "He must forgive me. He is my own son, and Arya and Sansa are as much his blood as mine. He will free me from these rooms, and then I will know what has happened." By the time Sir Desmond came for her, she had bathed and dressed and combed out her auburn hair. "King Robb has returned from the West, my lady," the knight said, "and commands that you attend him in the Great Hall." It was the moment she had dreamt of and dreaded. Have I lost 2 sons or 3? She would know soon enough. How did Catelyn Stark react when Robb returned Jean Westerling to Riverrun and introduced her as his lady wife? The maid came forward last and very shy. Robb took her hand. "Mother," he said, "I have the great honor to present you the Lady Jean Westerling, Lord Egwin's eldest daughter, and my lady wife." The first thought that flew across Catelyn's mind was no, that cannot be. You are only a child. The second was, and besides, you have pledged another. The third was, Mother have mercy, Robb, what have you done? Only then came her belated remembrance. Follies done for love. He has bagged me neat as a hare in a snare. I seem to have already forgiven him. Mixed with her annoyance was a rueful admiration. The scene had been staged with the cunning worthy of a master mummer or a king. Catelyn saw no choice but to take Jean Westerling's hand. "I have a new daughter," she said, more stiffly than she intended. She kissed the terrified girl on both cheeks. "Be welcome to our hall and hearth." "Thank you, my lady. I shall be a good and true wife to Robb, I swear, and as wise as a queen as I can." There's an interesting detail that showcases just how poor Robb Stark's decision to marry Jean Westerling over a Frey was. "And you," Catelyn said softly, "have lost the phrase." His wince told all. She understood the angry voices now, why Perwyn Frey and Martin Rivers had left in such haste, trampling Robb's banner into the ground as they went. "Dare I ask how many swords come with your bride, Robb?" 50. A dozen knights. His voice was glum, as well as it might be. When the marriage contract had been made at the Twins, old Lord Walder Frey had sent Robb off with 100 mounted knights and near 3,000 foot. "Jean is bright as well as beautiful, and kind as well. She has a gentle heart. It is swords you need, not gentle hearts." How could you do this, Robb? How could you be so heedless, so stupid? How could you be so very young? How did Jon Snow react to seeing giants and mammoths for the first time beyond the wall? The giants swayed slowly atop the mammoths as they rode past, 2 by 2. Jon's Garen shied, frightened by such strangeness. But whether it was the mammoths or their riders that scared him, it was hard to say. Even Ghost backed off a step, baring his teeth in a silent snarl. The direwolf was big, but the mammoths were a deal bigger. And there were many, and more of them. Jon took the horse in hand and held him still, so he could count the giants emerging from the blowing snow and pale mists that swirled along the milkwater. He was well beyond 50 when Tormund said something, and he lost the count. There must be hundreds. No matter how many went past, they just seemed to keep coming. How did Catelyn Stark explain to Robb his mistake of slighting Walder Frey in the books? "You have done House Frey a grievous insult, Robb. I never meant to. Sir Steffron died for me, and Oliver was as loyal a squire as any king could want. He asked to stay with me, but Sir Ryman took him with the rest. All their strength, the Great Jon urged me to attack them. Fighting your own in the midst of your enemies," she said, "it would have been the end of you." "Yes, I thought perhaps we could arrange other matches for Lord Walder's daughters. Sir Wendell Manderley has offered to take one, and the Great Jon tells me his uncle wishes to wed again. If Lord Walder will be reasonable, he is not reasonable," said Catelyn. "He is proud and prickly to a fault. You know that. He wanted to be grandfather to a king." How exactly did Robb Stark come to marry Jean Westerling in the books? He reveals to Catelyn, "I took her castle, and she took my heart." Robb smiled. "The crag was weakly garrisoned, so we took it by storm one night. Black Walder and the Small Jon led scaling parties over the walls, while I broke the main gate with a ram. I took an arrow in the arm just before Sir Rolf yielded us the castle. It seemed nothing at first, but it festered. Jean had me taken to her own bed, and she nursed me until the fever passed. And she was with me when the Great Jon brought me the news of Winterfell, Bran, and Rickon." He seemed to have trouble saying his brothers' names. "That night, she comforted me, Mother." Catelyn did not need to be told what sort of comfort Jean Westerling had offered her son. "And you wed her the next day." Sansa Stark was having second thoughts when Margaery invited her for supper. It was right after it was declared that Joffrey and Margaery would be wed. The invitation seemed innocent enough, but every time Sansa read it, her tummy tightened into a knot. She's to be queen now. She's beautiful and rich, and everyone loves her. Why would she want to sup with a traitor's daughter? It could be curiosity. Perhaps Margaery Tyrell wanted to get the measure of the rival she's displaced. Does she resent me, I wonder? Does she think I bear her ill will? She studied the invitation, which looked to be written in Margaery's own hand. If Joff was behind the invitation, he could have some cruel jape planned to shame her in the older girl's eyes. Would he command the Kingsguard to strip her naked once again? The last time, Tyrion had stopped him, but the imp could not save her now. Catelyn Stark trusts Grey Wind more than Robb. "I am not a wolf, no matter what they call me." Robb sounded cross. Grey Wind killed a man at the crag, another at Ashmark, and 6 or 7 at Oxcross. If you had seen, "I saw Bran's wolf tear out a man's throat at Winterfell," she said sharply, "and loved him for it. That's different. The man at the crag was a knight Jean had known all her life. You can't blame her for being afraid. Grey Wind doesn't like her uncle either. He bares his teeth every time Sir Rolf comes near him. A chill went through her. Send Sir Rolf away at once. I am not going to banish him just because my wolf doesn't seem to like the way he smells. Rob. She stopped and held his arm. I told you once to keep Theon Greyjoy close, and you did not listen. Listen now. Send this man away. How did Jon Snow first show signs of falling in love with Ygritte in the books? After meeting Mance Rayder for the second time, Jon reflects on Ygritte's beauty. The wildlings seem to think Ygritte a great beauty because of her hair. At a lord's court, the girl would never have been considered anything but common, he knew. She had a round, pleasant face, a pug nose, and slightly crooked teeth, and her eyes were too far apart. Jon had noticed all that the first time he'd seen her, when his dirk had been at her throat. Lately, though, he was noticing some other things. When she grinned, the crooked teeth didn't seem to matter, and sometimes by the cookfire, when she sat hugging her knees with the flames waking echoes in her red hair and looked at him, just smiling. Well, that stirred some things as well. Despite liking Mance Rayder, Jon Snow was prepared to kill him to end the war, and more importantly, protect his family in Winterfell. I will kill him if I must. The prospect gave Jon no joy. There would be no honor in such a killing, and it would mean his own death as well. Yet he could not let the wildlings breach the wall to threaten Winterfell and the north, the Barrowlands and the Rills, White Harbor and the Stony Shore, even the Neck. For 8,000 years, the men of House Stark had lived and died to protect their people against such ravagers and reavers, and bastard-born or no, the same blood ran in his veins. Bran and Rickon are still at Winterfell besides, Maester Luwin, Sir Roderick, Old Nan, Farlin the Kennelmaster, Mikken at his forge, and Gage by his ovens. Everyone I ever knew. Everyone I ever loved. The one wildling that both made Jon Snow and Ghost uncomfortable was a free folk skin changer named Varamir Sixskins, a small mouse of a man whose steed was a savage white snow bear that stood 13 feet tall on its hind legs. Jon had been in his presence only once, and once had been enough. The mere sight of the man had made him bristle, even as the fur on the back of Ghost's necks had bristled at the sight of the bear and the long black and white cat. When Sansa Stark is with Margaery Tyrell's cousins in King's Landing, she sees her past self in them. As for Eleanor, she was promised to a young squire. They would be wed as soon as he won his spurs. He had won her favor in the Battle of the Blackwater, where he'd slain a Myrish crossbowman and a Mullendore man-at-arms. Alan said her favor made him fearless, said Mega. He says he shouted her name for his battle cry. Isn't that ever so gallant? Someday, I want some champion to wear my favor and kill 100 men. Eleanor told her to hush, but looked pleased all the same. They are children, Sansa thought. They are silly little girls, even Eleanor. They've never seen a battle. They've never seen a man die. They know nothing. Their dreams were full of songs and stories, the ways her had been before Joffrey cut her father's head off. Sansa pitied them. Sansa envied them. Sansa worried about a future situation where Loras Tyrell could end up being a Kingslayer like Jaime Lannister. Sir Loras was a great knight, all agreed. But Joffrey had other Kingsguard and gold cloaks and red cloaks besides, and when he was older, he would command armies of his own. Aegon the Unworthy had never harmed Queen Naerys, perhaps for fear of their brother, the Dragon Knight. But when another of the Kingsguard fell in love with one of his mistresses, the king had taken both their heads. Yet the more she thought about it all, the more she wondered. Joff might restrain himself for a few turns, perhaps as long as a year, but soon or late he will show his claws, and when he does, the realm might have a second Kingslayer, and there would be war inside the city, as the men of the Lion and the men of the Rose made the gutters run red. How did Sansa picture Willis in the books? She could never hold a picture of Willis long in her head though. Her imaginings kept turning him back into Sir Loras, young and graceful and beautiful. You must not think of him like that, she told herself. or else he may see the disappointment in your eyes when you meet. And how could he marry you then, knowing it was his brother you loved? Willis Tyrell was twice her age, she reminded herself constantly, and lame as well, and perhaps even plump and red-faced like his father. We get a glimpse into Sansa Stark's mind as to how she envisions a potential marriage with Willis Tyrell. Sometimes she would whisper his name into her pillow just to hear the sound of it. Willis, Willis, Willis. Willis was as good a name as Loras, she supposed. What did it matter about his leg? Willis would be Lord of Highgarden, and she would be his lady. She pictured the two of them sitting together in a garden with puppies in their laps, or listening to a singer strum upon a lute while they floated down the Mander on a pleasure barge. If I give him sons, he may come to love me. She would name them Eddard and Brandon and Rickon, and raise them all to be as valiant as Sir Loras, and to hate the Lannisters too. In Sansa's dreams, her children looked just like the brothers she had lost. Sometimes there was even a girl who looked like Arya. Tywin Lannister's plan to free Tyrion was ruined by Jaime when he attacked Ned Stark. Only 6 Winterfell men remained of the 20 her father had sent west with Beric Dondarrion, Harwin told her, and they were scattered. It was a trap, milady. Lord Tywin sent his mountain across the Red Fork with fire and sword, hoping to draw your Lord Father. He planned for Lord Eddard to come west himself to deal with Gregor Clegane. If he had, he would have been killed, or taken prisoner and traded for the Yimp, who was your lady mother's captive at the time. Only the Kingslayer never knew Lord Tywin's plan, and when he heard about his brother's capture, he attacked your father in the streets of King's Landing. I remember, said Arya. He killed Jory, Harwin agreed, and your father's leg was broken when his horse fell on him, so Lord Eddard couldn't go west. There's a moment where Sansa Stark urges Margaery Tyrell not to marry Joffrey Baratheon. Sister. Sansa had once dreamed of having a sister like Margaery, beautiful and gentle, with all the world's graces at her command. How can I let my sister marry Joffrey, she thought, and suddenly her eyes were full of tears. Margaery, please, she said, you mustn't. It was hard to get the words out. You mustn't marry him. He's not like he seems. He's not. He'll hurt you. I shouldn't think so, Margaery smiled confidently. It's brave of you to warn me, but you need not fear. Joff's spoilt and vain, and I don't doubt that he's as cruel as you say, but father forced him to name Loras to his Kingsguard before he would agree to the match. I shall have the finest knight in the 7 kingdoms protecting me, night and day. So our little lion had best behave, hadn't he? Arya learns that Jaime Lannister has escaped from Riverrun. Arya was sucking the last bit of meat off a wing when one of the villagers turned to Lem Lemoncloak and said, There were men through here not 2 days past looking for the Kingslayer. Lem snorted. They do better looking in Riverrun, down in the deepest dungeons, where it's nice and damp. No, another villager said. He escaped. The Kingslayer. Arya could feel the hair on the back of her neck prickling. She held her breath to listen. Could that be true? Tom 07 said. I'll not believe it, said the one-eyed man in the rusty pothelm. I've had me a taste of them dungeons. How could he escape? The villagers could only shrug at that. Greenbeard stroked his thick grey and green whiskers and said, The wolves will drown in blood if the Kingslayer's loose again. Thoros must be told. The Lord of Light will show him Lannister in the flames. Sir Dontos warned Sansa Stark that the Tyrells only planned to have Willis marry her because of her claim. I will be safe in Highgarden. Willis will keep me safe. But he does not know you, Dontos insisted, and he will not love you. Open your sweet eyes. These Tyrells care nothing for you. It's your claim they mean to wed. My claim? She was lost for a moment. Sweetling, he told her, you are heir to Winterfell. He grabbed her again, pleading that she must not do this thing, and Sansa wrenched free and left him swaying beneath the heart tree. She had not visited the Godswood since, but she had not forgotten his words either. Sansa had grown up with 3 brothers. She never thought to have a claim, but with Bran and Rickon dead, it doesn't matter. There's still Robb. He's a grown man now, and soon he'll wed and have a son. Tyrion Lannister did receive credit for his chain move during the Battle of Blackwater. However, he wanted King's Landing and the people to know about it and acknowledge him. Oh, the lords had been courteous enough, though he could tell how uncomfortable it made them to look at him. "That chain of yours, that was cunning," Mace Tyrell had said in a jolly tone, and Lord Redwyne nodded and said, quite so, my lords of Highgarden speaks for all of us," and very cheerfully too. "Tell it to the people of this city," Tyrion thought bitterly. "Tell it to the bloody singers with their songs of Renly's ghost." His uncle Kevin had been the warmest, going so far as to kiss his cheek and say, "Lancel has told me how brave you were, Tyrion. He speaks very highly of you." The Unsullied have a secret drink which makes them not feel pain. "They feel no pain, you see." "How can that be?" she demanded. "The wine of courage," was the answer he gave her. "It is no true wine at all, but made from deadly nightshade and many secret things. They drink it with every meal from the day they are cut, and with each passing year feel less and less. It makes them fearless in battle, nor can they be tortured. Tell the savage her secrets are safe with the Unsullied. In Yunkai and Marine, eunuchs are often made by removing a boy's testicles, but leaving the Such a creature is infertile, yet often still capable of erection. Only trouble can come of this. We remove the P as well, leaving nothing. The Unsullied are the purest creatures on the earth." He gave Dany and Arstan another of his broad white smiles. Tyrion Lannister still has some form of PTSD from being locked up in the sky cells in the Vale. There is Lysa Arryn to deal with as well. Jon Arryn's widow, Hoster Tully's daughter, Catelyn Stark's sister, whose husband was conspiring with Stannis Baratheon at the time of his death. The Lady Lysa took no part in the fighting, nor has she committed any overt acts of treason. Tyrion stirred. "She did throw me in a cell and put me on trial for my life," he pointed out with a certain amount of rancor. "Nor has she returned to King's Landing to swear fealty to Joff, as she was commanded. My lords, grant me the men, and I will sort out Lysa Arryn." He could think of nothing he would enjoy more, except perhaps strangling Cersei. Sometimes he still dreamed of the eerie sky cells and woke drenched in cold sweat. Unsullieds feel no pain. Cranies moved to the next eunuch in line. "Your sword," he said. The eunuch knelt, unsheathed the blade, and offered it up hilt first. "Stand," Cranies commanded. "Your worship." The eunuch stood, and Cranies slid the sword slowly up his torso, leaving a thin red line across his belly and between his ribs. Then he jabbed the sword point in beneath a wide pink nipple and began to work it back and forth. "What is he doing?" Dany demanded, as the blood ran down the man's chest. "Tell the cow to stop her bleating," said Cranies. "This will do him no great harm. Men have no need of nipples." The nipple hung by a thread of skin. He slashed and sent it tumbling to the bricks. The eunuch did not move until Cranies offered him back his sword. "Here, I'm done with you. This one is pleased to have served you." Cranies turned back to Dany. "They feel no pain, you see." How did Littlefinger propose to bring the Vale into fold? "I believe Lord Peter may hold the key to the Eyrie," Tywin said. "Oh, I do," said Littlefinger. "I have it here between my legs." There was mischief in his grey-green eyes. "My lords, with your leave, I propose to travel to the Vale, and there woo and win Lady Lysa Arryn. Once I am her consort, I shall deliver you the Vale of Arryn without a drop of blood being spilt." Lord Rowan looked doubtful. "Would Lady Lysa have you?" "She's had me a few times before, Lord Mathis, and voiced no complaints." "Bedding," said Cersei, "is not a wedding." To be sure, it would not have been fitting for a daughter of Riverrun to marry one so far below her. Littlefinger spread his hands. Now, though, a match between the Lady of the Eyrie and the Lord of Harrenhal is not so unthinkable, is it? We get some insight from Tyrion Lannister as to how lowly regarded Mace Tyrell was as a battle commander. "Is there anything as pointless as a king without a kingdom? No, it's plain. The boy must abandon the Riverlands, join his forces to Roose Bolton's once more, and throw all his strength against Moat Cailin. That is what I would do." Tyrion had to bite his tongue at that. Robb Stark had won more battles in a year than the Lord of Highgarden had in 20. Tyrell's reputation rested on one indecisive victory over Robert Baratheon at Ashford, in a battle largely won by Lord Tarly's van, before the main host had even arrived. The siege of Storm's End, where Mace Tyrell actually did hold the command, had dragged on a year to no result, and after the Trident was fought, the Lord of Highgarden had meekly dipped his banners to Eddard Stark. Tyrion fears Littlefinger before he leaves for the Vale. Jon Arryn's son is Lord of the Eyrie now. The Lord Robert, said Lord Redwyn. Only a boy, said Littlefinger. I will see that he grows to be Joffrey's most loyal subject, and a fast friend to us all. Tyrion studied the slender man with the pointed beard and irreverent grey-green eyes. Lord of Harrenhal, an empty honor. Bugger that, father. Even if he never sets foot in the castle, the title makes this match possible, as he's known all along. We have no lack of foes, said Sir Kevan Lannister. If the Eyrie can be kept out of the war, all to the good. I am of a mind to see what Lord Peter can accomplish. Sir Kevan was his brother's vanguard in council. Tyrion knew from long experience he never had a thought that Lord Tywin had not had first. It has all been settled beforehand, he concluded, and this discussion's no more than show. Tyrion tried to stop Littlefinger from leaving King's Landing because he didn't trust him. How will the crown pay its debts without Lord Peter? He is our wizard of coin, and we have no one to replace him. Littlefinger smiled. My little friend is too kind. All I do is count coppers, as King Robert used to say. Any clever tradesman could do as well, and a Lannister, blessed with the golden touch of Castle Rock, will no doubt far surpass me. A Lannister? Tyrion had a bad feeling about this. Lord Tywin's gold-flecked eyes met his son's mismatched ones. You are admirably suited to the task, I believe. Indeed, Sir Kevan said heartily. I have no doubt you'll make a splendid master of coin, Tyrion. Lord Tywin turned back to Littlefinger. If Lysa Arryn will take you for a husband and return the king's peace, we shall restore the Lord Robert to the honor of Warden of the East. How soon might you leave? Littlefinger makes sure he's not at Joffrey's wedding so he can kill Tyrion without gaining any suspicion. On the morrow, if the winds permit, there's a Braavosi galley standing out past the chain, taking on cargo by boat. The Merling King. I'll see her captain about a berth, said Littlefinger. You will miss the king's wedding, said Mace Tyrell. Peter Baelish gave a shrug. Tides and brides wait on no man, my lord. Once the autumn storms begin, the voyage will be much more hazardous. Drowning would definitely diminish my charms as a bridegroom. Lord Tyrell chuckled. True, best you do not linger. May the gods speed you on your way, the High Septon said. All King's Landing shall pray for your success. Tywin let the Greyjoys fight Robb without giving them anything. Lord Redwyn pinched at his nose. May we return to the matter of the Greyjoy alliance? In my view, there is much to be said for it. Greyjoy's longships will augment my own fleet and give us sufficient strength at sea to assault Dragonstone and end Stannis Baratheon's pretensions. King Balon's longships are occupied for the nonce, Lord Tywin said politely. As are we. Greyjoy demands half the kingdom as the price of alliance, but what will he do to earn it? Fight the Starks? He is doing that already. Why should we pay for what he has given us for free? The best thing to do about our Lord of Pike is nothing, in my view. Granted enough time, a better option may well present itself. One that does not require the king to give up half his kingdom. Mace didn't want any Dornishmen to come to his daughter's wedding. The High Septon spoke of the preparations being made at the Great Sept of Baelor, and Cersei detailed the plans she had been making for the feast. Your Grace, said Grand Maester Pycelle, in regard to the number of guests, we have had a raven from Sunspear. 300 Dornishmen are riding toward King's Landing as we speak, and hope to arrive before the wedding. How do they come? Asked Mace Tyrell gruffly. They have not asked leave to cross my lands. His thick neck had turned a dark red, Tyrion noted. Dornishmen and Highgardians had never had great love for one another. Over the centuries, they had fought border wars beyond count, and raided back and forth across mountains and marches even when at peace. The enmity had waned a bit after Dorne had become part of the Seven Kingdoms, until the Dornish prince they called the Red Viper had crippled the young heir of Highgarden in a tourney. Tyrion knew Tywin was planning something in the north that didn't involve the Greyjoys. He just didn't know what. Tyrion watched his father closely. There's something he's not saying. He remembered those important letters Lord Tywin had been writing the night Tyrion had demanded Castle Rock. What was it he said? Some battles are won with swords and spears, others with quills and ravens. He pondered who the better option was, and what sort of price he was demanding. "Perhaps we ought to move on to the wedding," Sir Kevin said. Tywin states that the Dornishmen will come to the wedding even though others were against it. This could be ticklish, the dwarf thought, waiting to see how his father would handle it. "Prince Doran comes at my son's invitation," Lord Tywin said calmly, "not only to join in our celebration, but also for the justice Robert denied him for the murder of his sister Elia and her children." Tyrion wondered if any of the three would be bold enough to say, "But Lord Tywin, wasn't it you who presented the bodies to Robert, all wrapped up in Lannister cloaks?" None of them did, but it was there on their faces all the same. "When the king is wed to your Marjorie and Marcella to Prince Trystane, we shall all be one great house," Sir Kevin reminded Mace Tyrell. "The enmities of the past should remain there. Would you not agree, my lord?" "This is my daughter's wedding, and my grandson," said Lord Tywin firmly. "No place for old quarrels, surely." The Tyrells and other High Lords received rewards for their defense of King's Landing. Highgarden reaped the richest harvest. Tyrell demanded the lands and castles of Lord Ulster Florent, his own bannerman, who'd had the singular ill judgment to back first Renly and then Stannis. Lord Tywin was pleased to oblige. Brightwater Keep and all its lands and incomes were granted to Lord Tyrell's second son, Sir Garland, transforming him into a great lord in the blink of an eye. Lesser tracts were granted to Lord Rowan and set aside for Lord Tarly, Lady Oakhart, Lord Hightower, and other worthies not present. Lord Redwyn asked only for 30 years' remissions of the taxes that Littlefinger and his wine factors had levied on certain of the Arbor's finest vintages. When that was granted, he pronounced himself well satisfied and suggested that they send for a cask of Arbor gold to toast good King Joffrey and his wise and benevolent hand. Tywin used castles and lands of traitors to secure alliances. "The fruits of victory await division," said Tywin. "What could be sweeter," said Littlefinger, who had already swallowed his own fruit, Harrenhal. Each lord had his own demands, this castle and that village, tracts of lands, a small river, a forest, the wardship of certain miners left fatherless by the battle. Fortunately, these fruits were plentiful, and there were orphans and castles for all. Varys had lists. 47 lesser lordlings and 619 knights had lost their lives beneath the fiery heart of Stannis and his Lord of Light, along with several thousand common men at arms. Traitors all. Their heirs were disinherited, their lands and castles granted to those who had proved more loyal. Mace Tyrell wants the Dornishmen to ask for his permission to come to his daughter's wedding. "I have no quarrel with Doran Martell," insisted Lord Tyrell, though his tone was more than a little grudging. "If he wishes to cross the Reach in peace, he need only ask my leave." Small chance of that, thought Tyrion. He'll climb the Boneway, turn east near Summerhall, and come up the King's Road. 300 Dornishmen need not trouble our plans, said Cersei. "We can feed the men-at-arms in our yard, squeeze some extra benches into the throne room for the lordlings and highborn knights, and find Prince Doran a place of honor on the dais." "Not by me," was the message Tyrion saw in Mace Tyrell's eyes, but the Lord of Highgarden made no reply but a curt nod. "Perhaps we can move to a more pleasant task," said Lord Tywin. In House of the Dragon, Otto Hightower and his family played a long game, ensuring that their bloodline sat the Iron Throne. Some say they were just doing what any noble house would do, securing their power. Others believe Otto was the true mastermind behind the war, manipulating Alicent and twisting Viserys' words. What do you think? Were the Hightowers just doing what was necessary? Or were they the true villains? Varys told Tywin about Daenerys' dragons, but he didn't believe it. "A kraken has been seen off the fingers," Varys giggled. Not a Greyjoy, mind you, a true kraken. It attacked an Ibonesi whaler and pulled it under. Sailors back from the Jade Sea report that a 3-headed dragon has hatched in Karth and is the wonder of that city. "Dragons and krakens do not interest me, regardless of the number of their heads," said Lord Tywin. Have your whisperers perchance found some trace of my brother's son? Tywin would rather send a message than support the Night's Watch. Some of the gold cloaks who deserted during the battle have drifted back to the barracks, thinking to take up duty once again. Sir Adam wishes to know what to do with them, said Kevan Lannister. They might have endangered Joff with their cowardice, Cersei said at once. I want them put to death. Varys sighed. They have surely earned death, your grace. None can deny it. And yet, perhaps we might be wiser to send them to the Night's Watch. We have had disturbing messages from the Wall of late, of wildlings astir. Wildlings, krakens, and dragons, Mace Tyrell chuckled. Why, is there anyone not stirring? Lord Tywin ignored that. The deserters serve us best as a lesson. Break their knees with hammers, they will not run again, nor will any man who sees them begging in the streets. He glanced down the table to see if any of the other lords disagreed. Tywin wants the wildlings to invade the north so the Starks and Greyjoys have even more enemies. Tyrion remembered his own visit to the Wall, and the crabs he'd shared with old Lord Mormont and his officers. He remembered the old bear's fears as well. Perhaps we might break the knees of a few to make our point. Those who killed Sir Jacelyn, say. The rest we can send to Marsh. The Watch is grievously under strength. If the Wall should fail, the wildlings will flood the north, his father finished, and the Starks and Greyjoys will have another enemy to contend with. They no longer wish to be the subject to the Iron Throne, it would seem, so by what right do they look to the Iron Throne for aid? King Robb and King Balon both claim the north. Let them defend it, if they can. And if not, this Mance Rayder might even prove as a useful ally. Tywin would marry Cersei off to try and stop the rumors about her and Jaime. Your Grace, said Kevan courteously, you are a young woman, still fair and fertile, and a new marriage would put to rest this talk of incest for good and all. So long as you remain unwed, you allow Stannis to spread his disgusting slander, Lord Tywin told his daughter. You must have a new husband in your bed, to father children on you. 3 children is quite sufficient. I am Queen of the 7 Kingdoms, not a brood mare, the Queen Regent. You are my daughter, and you will do as I command. She stood. I will not sit here and listen to this. You will if you wish to have any voice in the choice of your next husband, Lord Tywin said calmly. You will marry, and you will breed. Every child you birth makes Stannis more of a liar. Tyrion thinks Littlefinger is playing them all, even Tywin. Master of coin, said Tyrion in a thin, strained voice. Whose notion was that, pray? Lord Peter's, his father said. But it serves us well to have the treasury in the hands of a Lannister. You have asked for important work. Do you fear you might be incapable of the task? No, said Tyrion. I fear a trap. Littlefinger is subtle and ambitious. I do not trust him, nor should you. He won Highgarden to our side, Cersei began, and sold you Ned Stark, I know. He will sell us just as quick. A coin is as dangerous as a sword in the wrong hands. His uncle Kevan looked at him oddly. Not to us, surely. The gold of Castle Rock is dug from the ground. Littlefinger's gold is made from thin air with a snap of his fingers. A more useful skill than any of yours, sweet brother, purred Cersei. Tywin thinks Littlefinger will be the easiest person to control in the Vale compared to other suitors for Lysa. Sir Kevan cleared his throat. I would sooner have Peter Baelish ruling the Eyrie than any of Lady Lysa's other suitors. Jon Royce, Lynn Corbry, Horton Redford. These are dangerous men, each in his own way, and proud. Littlefinger may be clever, but he has neither high birth nor skill at arms. The lords of the Vale will never accept such as their liege. He looked to his brother. When Lord Tywin nodded, he continued. And there is this. Lord Peter continues to demonstrate his loyalty. Only yesterday, he brought us word of a Tyrell plot to spirit Sansa Stark off to Highgarden for a visit, and there marry her to Lord Mace's eldest son, Willis. Littlefinger brought you word. Tyrion leaned against the table. Not our Master of Whisperers. How interesting. Tywin would use anyone, including his children, to win the war. Cersei looked at their uncle in disbelief. Sansa is my hostage. She goes nowhere without my leave. Leave you must perforce grant should Lord Tyrell ask, their father pointed out. To refuse him would be tantamount to declaring that we do not trust him. He would take offense. Let him, what do we care? Bloody fool, thought Tyrion. Sweet sister, he explained patiently. Offend Tyrell and you offend Redwyn, Tarly, Rowan, and Hightower as well, and perhaps start them wondering whether Robb Stark might not be more accommodating to their desires. I will not have the Rose and the Direwolf in bed together, declared Lord Tywin. We must forestall him. How? Asked Cersei. By marriage. Yours to begin with. It came so suddenly that Cersei could only stare for a moment. Then her cheeks reddened as if she had been slapped. No, not again. I will not. Tywin discusses who would be the best match for Cersei. Balon Greyjoy's wife is elderly and failing, but a match would commit us to an alliance with the Iron Islands. No, Cersei said from between white lips. Tyrion could not quite suppress the grin that came to his lips at the thought of packing his sister off to Pike. Just when I was about to give up praying, some sweet god gives me this. Lord Tywin went on. Oberyn Martell might suit, but the Tyrells would take that very ill. I have also considered the Redwyn twins, Theon Greyjoy, Quentyn Martell, and a number of others. But our alliance with Highgarden was the sword that broke Stannis. Sir Loras has taken the White, and Sir Garland is wed. But there remains the eldest son, the boy they schemed to wed to Sansa Stark. Willis Tyrell. Tyrion was taking a wicked pleasure in Cersei's helpless fury. That would be the cripple, he said. Tyrion thought Jaime might kill Willis Tyrell if he married Cersei. Cersei swept stiffly from the room, her rage plain to see. Yet, in the end, she will do as father bid. She had proved that with Robert, though there is Jaime to consider. Their brother had been much younger when Cersei wed the first time. He might not acquiesce to a second marriage quite so easily. The unfortunate Willis Tyrell was like to contract a sudden fatal case of sword through bowels, which could rather sour the alliance between Highgarden and Castle Rock. I should say something, but what? Pardon me, father, but it's our brother she wants to marry. Cersei didn't know how to respond to the marriage suggestions that Tywin told her about. Willis is heir to Highgarden, and by all reports, a mild and courtly young man fond of reading books and looking at the stars. He has a passion for breeding animals as well, and owns the finest hounds, hawks, and horses in the Seven Kingdoms. Tyrion pitied poor Willis Tyrell, and did not know whether he wanted to laugh at his sister or weep for her. The Tyrell heir would be my choice, Lord Tywin concluded. But if you would prefer another, I will hear your reasons. That is so very kind of you, father, Cersei said with icy courtesy. It is such a difficult choice you give me. Who would I sooner take to bed, the old squid or the crippled dog boy? I shall need a few days to consider. Do I have your leave to go? Go, their father said. We shall talk again after you have composed yourself. Tyrion thought there were some benefits to getting married. Your awing is a weakness in you, Lord Tywin said without preamble, but perhaps some share of the blame is mine. Since you stand no taller than a boy, I have found it easy to forget that you are in truth a man grown, with all of a man's baser needs. It is past time you were wed. I was wed, or have you forgotten? Tyrion's mouth twisted, and the noise emerged that was half laugh and half snarl. Does the prospect of marriage amuse you? Only imagining what a bugger-all handsome bridegroom I'll make. A wife might be the very thing he needed. If she brought him lands and a keep, it would give him a place in the world apart from Joffrey's court, and away from Cersei and their father. On the other hand, there was Shae. She will not like this, for all she swears that she is content to be my oar. Tyrion surmised that Tywin planned to marry him off to Sansa Stark. You mean to wed me to Sansa Stark, but won't the Tyrells take that match as an affront if they have designs of the girl? Lord Tyrell will not broach the matter of the Stark girl until after Joffrey's wedding. If Sansa is wed before that, how can he take offense when he gave us no hint of his intentions? Quite so, said Sir Kevan, and any lingering resentments should be soothed by the offer of Circe for his Willis. Tyrion rubbed at the raw stub of his nose. The scar tissue itched sometimes. His Grace, the royal Pustel, has made Sansa's life a misery since the day her father died, and now that she is finally rid of Joffrey, you propose to marry her to me. That seems cruel, even for you, father. Why, do you plan to mistreat her? His father sounded more curious than concerned. Tywin wants Sansa to eventually win the North. His Grace, the royal Pustel, has made Sansa's life a misery since the day her father died, and now that she is finally rid of Joffrey, you propose to marry her to me. That seems cruel, even for you, father. Why, do you plan to mistreat her? Her father sounded more curious than concerned. The girl's happiness is not my purpose, nor should it be yours. Our alliances in the south may be as solid as Castle Rock, but there remains the north to win, and the key to the north is Sansa Stark. She is no more than a child. Your sister swears she's flowered. If so, she is a woman, fit to be wed. You must needs take her maidenhead, so no man can say the marriage was not consummated. After that, if you prefer to wait a year or two before bedding her again, you would be within your rights as her husband. Tyrion wanted to send Sansa Stark back to her mother. If your purpose here is to keep her from the Tyrells, why not return her to her mother? Perhaps that would convince Robb Stark to bend the knee. Lord Tywin's look was scornful. Send her to Riverrun and her mother will match her with a Blackwood or a Mallister to shore up her son's alliances along the Trident. Send her north and she'll be wed to some Manderley or Umber before the moon turns. Yet she is no less dangerous here at court, as this business with the Tyrells should prove. She must marry a Lannister, and soon. The man who weds Sansa Stark can claim Winterfell in her name, his uncle Kevin put in. Had that not occurred to you? If you will not have the girl, we shall give her to one of your cousins, said his father. Kevin, is Lancel strong enough to wed, do you think? Tywin tells Tyrion that Sansa is the best option for a wife he has ever had and will ever have. When I offered you to Dorne, I was told that the suggestion was an insult, Lord Tywin said. In later years, I had similar answers from Jon Royce and Leighton Hightower. I finally stooped so low as to suggest that you might take the Florent girl Robert de Flowered in his brother's wedding bed, but her father preferred to give her to one of his own household knights. If you will not have the Stark girl, I shall find you another wife. Somewhere in the realm there is doubtless some little lordling who will gladly part with a daughter to win the friendship of Castle Rock. Lady Tanda has offered lollies. Tyrion gave a shudder of dismay. I'd sooner cut it off and feed it to the goats. Then open your eyes. The Stark girl is young, nubile, tractable of the highest birth, and still a maid. She is not uncomely. Why would you hesitate? Tywin thinks ahead to after the war and winning the North with Tyrion's children. Strange to say, I would prefer a wife who wants me in her bed. If you think your want you in your bed, you are an even greater fool than I suspected, said Lord Tywin. You disappoint me, Tyrion. I had hoped this match would please you. Yes, we all know how important my pleasure is to you, father. But there's more to this. The key to the North, you say. The Greyjoys hold the North now, and King Balon has a daughter. Why Sansa Stark and not her? Balon Greyjoy thinks in terms of plunder, not rule. Let him enjoy an autumn crown and suffer a northern winter. He will give his subjects no cause to love him. Come spring, when you bring Eddard Stark's grandson home to claim his birthright, lords and little folk alike will rise as one to place him on the high seat of his ancestors. Tywin tells Tyrion to think of the marriage to Sansa as his reward. Sansa Stark, Tyrion mused. Soft-spoken, sweet-smelling Sansa, who loved silks, songs, chivalry, and tall, gallant knights with handsome faces. He felt as though he was back on the bridge of boats, the deck shifting beneath his feet. You asked me to reward you for your efforts in the battle, Lord Tywin reminded him forcefully. This is a chance for you, Tyrion, the best you are ever likely to have. He drummed his fingers impatiently on the table. I once hoped to marry your brother to Lysa Tully, but Aerys named Jaime to his Kingsguard. When I suggested Lord Hoster that Lysa might be wed to you instead, he replied that he wanted a whole man for his daughter. so he wed her to Jon Arryn, who was old enough to be her grandfather. Tyrion was more inclined to be thankful than angry, considering what Lysa Arryn had become. Tywin made plans to take Winterfell as soon as Robb broke his marriage pact with the Freys. "You shall never have Castle Rock, I promise you, but wed Sansa Stark, and it is just possible that you might win Winterfell." Tyrion Lannister, Lord Protector of Winterfell. The prospect gave him a queer chill. "Very good, father," he said slowly, "but there's a big ugly roach in your rushes. Robb Stark is as capable as I am, presumably, and sworn to marry one of those fertile Freys, and once the young wolf sires a litter, any pups that Sansa births are heirs to nothing." Lord Tywin was unconcerned. "Robb Stark will father no children on his fertile Frey. You have my word. There is a bit of news I have not yet seen fit to share the council, though no doubt the good lords will hear it soon enough. The young wolf has taken Gawain Westerling's eldest daughter to wife." Tyrion was left speechless after hearing news that Robb broke his marriage pact. For a moment, Tyrion could not believe he'd heard his father right. "He broke his sworn word?" he said, incredulous. "He threw away the phrase for..." Words failed him. "A maid of 16 years named Jean," said Sir Kevan. "Lord Gawain once suggested her to me for Willem or Martin, but I had to refuse him. Gawain is a good man, but his wife is Sybil Spicer. He should never have wed her. The Westerlings always did have more honor than sense. Lady Sibel's grandfather was a trader in saffron and peppers, and the grandmother was some woman he'd brought back from the east, a frightening old crone, supposed to be a priestess. Magi, they called her," he shrugged. "She's long dead, to be sure, and Jean seemed a sweet girl, I'll grant you, though I only saw her once, but with such doubtful blood." Tyrion thought Robb has doomed the Westerlings. "A sweet child," Sir Kevan had said, "but many a poison was sweet as well. The Westerlings were old blood, but they had more pride than power. A romantic ruin though, jutting up so brave above the sea." "I am surprised," Tyrion had to confess. "I thought Robb Stark had better sense." "He is a boy of 16, said Lord Tywin. "At that age, sense weighs for little. Against and love and honor, he forswore himself, shamed an ally, betrayed a solemn promise. Where is the honor in that?" Sir Kevan answered. "He chose the girl's honor over his own. Once he had deflowered her, he had no other course." "It would have been kinder to leave her with a bastard in her belly," said Tyrion bluntly. The Westerlings stood to lose everything now. Their lands, their castle, their very lives. A Lannister always pays his debts. Tywin was able to scare a defiant lord by simply sending him an envoy with a lute. "Jean Westerling is her mother's daughter," said Lord Tywin, "and Robb Stark is his father's son." This Westerling betrayal did not seem to have enraged his father as much as Tyrion would have expected. Lord Tywin did not suffer disloyalty in his vassals. He had extinguished the proud reigns of Castamere and the ancient Tarbecks of Tarbeck Hallroot and Branch when he was still half a boy. The singers had even made a rather gloomy song of it. Some years later, when Lord Farman of Faircastle grew truculent, Lord Tywin sent an envoy bearing a lute instead of a letter. But once he'd heard the reigns of Castamere echoing through his hall, Lord Farman gave no further trouble. And if the song were not enough, the shattered castles of the Rains and Tarbecks still stood as mute testimony to the fate that awaited those who chose to scorn the power of Castle Rock. Catelyn fears that the Lannisters will kill Sansa every day. The dead boys were pale from long imprisonment, and both had been fair against their smooth white skin. The blood was shockingly red, unbearable to look upon. Will they lay Sansa down naked beneath the Iron Throne after they have killed her? Will her skin seem as white, her blood as red? From outside came the steady wash of rain and the restless howling of a wolf. Her brother Edmure stood to Robb's right, one hand upon the back of his father's seat, his face still puffy from sleep. They had woken him as they had her, pounding on his door in the black of night to yank him rudely from his dreams. Were they good dreams, brother? Do you dream of sunlight and laughter and a maiden's kisses? I pray you do. Her own dreams were dark and laced with terrors. Tyrion was scared of Tywin smiling. The shattered castles of the Rains and Tarbecks still stood as mute testimony to the fate that awaited those who chose to scorn the power of Castle Rock. The crag is not so far from Tarbeck Hall and Castamere, Tyrion pointed out. You'd think the Westerlings might have ridden past and seen the lesson there. Mayhaps they have, Lord Tywin said. They are well aware of Castamere, I promise you. Could the Westerlings and Spices be such great fools as to believe the wolf can defeat the lion? Every once in a very long while, Lord Tywin Lannister would actually threaten to smile. He never did, but the threat alone was terrible to behold. The greatest fools are ofttimes more clever than the men who laugh at them, he said. And then, you will marry Sansa Stark, Tyrion, and soon. Jean may have been friends with the prisoners that Lord Rickard Karstark murdered. Robb's captains and Lord's bannermen stood about the hall, some mailed and armed, others in various states of dishevelment and undress. Sir Reynold and his uncle Sir Rolf were among them, but Robb had seen fit to spare his queen this ugliness. The crag is not far from Castle Rock, Catelyn recalled. Jean may well have played with these boys when all of them were children. She looked down again upon the corpses of the squires, Tion Frey and Willem Lannister, and waited for her son to speak. It seemed a very long time before Robb lifted his eyes from the bloody dead. Small John, he said, tell your father to bring them in. As the Great John marched his prisoners through the doors, Catelyn made note of how some other men stepped back to give them room, as if treason could somehow be passed by a touch, a glance, a cough. Lord Rickard Karstark sees no problem killing children as retribution. Any man who steps between a father and his vengeance asks for death. His words rang against Catelyn's ears, harsh and cruel as the pounding of a war drum. Her throat was dry as bone. I did this. These two boys died so my daughters might live. I saw your sons die. That night in the Whispering Wood, Robb told Lord Karstark. Tion Frey did not kill Torrhen. Willem Lannister did not slay Eddard. How then can you call this vengeance? This was folly and bloody murder. Your sons died honorably on a battlefield, with swords in their hands. They died, said Rickard Karstark, yielding no inch of ground. The Kingslayer cut them down. These two were of his ilk. Only blood can pay for blood. The blood of children, Robb pointed out at the corpses. How old were they? 12? 13? Squires. Squires die in every battle. Die fighting, yes. Tion Frey and William Lannister gave up their swords in the Whispering Wood. They were captives locked in a cell, asleep. Unarmed. Boys. Look at them. Karstark says Robb lost them the north. They were captives locked in a cell, asleep. Unarmed. Boys. Look at them. Lord Karstark looked instead at Catelyn. Tell your mother to look at them, he said. She slew them as much as I. My mother had naught to do with this, Robb said angrily. This was your work, your murder, your treason. Has your grace forgotten that we are at war with Castle Rock? In war, you kill your enemies. Didn't your father teach you that, boy? Boy! The Great John dealt Rickard Karstark a mailed fist that sent him to his knees. Leave him, Robb's voice rang. Karstark spit out a broken tooth. Yes, Lord Umber, leave me to the king. He means to give me a scolding before he forgives me. That's how he deals with treason, our king in the north. He smiled a wet red smile. Or should I call you the king who lost the north, your grace? Lord Rickard Karstark used 8 men to get to the prisoners he murdered. The captors and the captives looked much alike. Big men, every one, with thick beards and long hair. Only the fact that some had spears and others empty scabbards served to set them apart. 5, said Robb, when the prisoners stood before him, wet and silent. Is that all of them? There were 8, rumbled the Great John. We killed 2 taking them, and a 3rd is dying now. Robb studied the faces of the captives. It required 8 of you to kill 2 unarmed squires. Edmure Tully spoke up. They murdered 2 of my men as well, to get into the tower, Delp and Elwood. It was no murder, sir, said Lord Rickard Karstark, no more discomfited by the ropes about his wrists than by the blood that trickled down his face. Any man who steps between a father and his vengeance asks for death. Rob hung dead men. He smiled a red smile. Or should I call you the king who lost the north, your grace? The great John snatched a spear from the man beside him and jerked it to his shoulder. Let me spit him, sire. Let me open his belly so we can see the color of his guts. The doors of the hole crashed open, and the blackfish entered with water running from his cloak and helm. Tully men-at-arms followed him in. So Brendan removed his helm and went to one knee. Your grace, was all he said, but the grimness of his tone spoke volumes. I will hear Sir Brendan privily in the audience chamber. Rob rose to his feet. Great John, keep Lord Karstark here till I return, and hang the other 7. The Great John lowered the spear. Even the dead ones? Yes, I would not have such fouling my lord uncle's rivers. Rob let the watcher of the traitors die last. Great John, keep Lord Karstark here till I return, and hang the other 7. Even the dead ones? Yes, I would not have such fouling my lord uncle's rivers. Let them feed the crows. One of the captives dropped to his knees. Mercy, sire. I killed no one. I only stood at the door to watch for guards. Rob considered that a moment. Did you know what Lord Karstark intended? Did you hear the shouts, the screams, the cries for mercy? I did, but I took no part. I was only the watcher, I swear it. Lord Umber, said Rob. This one was only the watcher. Hang him last, so he may watch the others die. Mother, uncle, with me, if you please. Outside, the thunder crashed and boomed, so loud it sounded as if the castle were coming down about their ears. Is this the sound of a kingdom falling? Catelyn wondered. Karstark promised his daughter to any man who gives him Jaime Lannister's head. The Karstarks are gone. All? Was it anger or despair that thickened Rob's voice? All the fighting men, Brandon replied. A few camp followers were left with their wounded. They started leaving at nightfall, stealing off in 1s and 2s at first, and then in larger groups. The wounded men and servants were told to keep the campfires lit so no one would know they'd gone. But once the rains began, it didn't matter. Will they reform away from Riverrun? Asked Rob. No, they've scattered hunting. Karstark has sworn to give the hand of his maiden daughter to any man, highborn or low, who brings him the head of the Kingslayer. Catelyn felt ill again. Near 300 riders and twice as many mounts melted away in the night. Rob rubbed his temples. All the mounted strength of Karhold lost. Lost by me. By me. May the gods forgive me. Edmure wanted Rob to lie about the prisoners dying. For the moment, Rob held the Riverlands, but his kingdom was surrounded by enemies to every side but east, where Lysa sat aloof on her mountaintop. Even the Trident was scarce secure so long as the Lord of the Crossing withheld his allegiance. And now to lose the Karstarks as well. No word of this must leave Riverrun, Edmure said. Lord Tywin would... The Lannisters pay their debts. They are always saying that. Rob gave Edmure a look that chilled. Would you make me a liar as well as a murderer, uncle? We need speak no falsehood, only say nothing. Bury the boys and hold our tongues till the war's done. We must keep the news from the twins as well. Until we can bring the murdered back to life, said Brendan Blackfish sharply. The truth escaped with the Karstarks, Edmure. It is too late for such games. Rob knew that in killing Lord Karstark, he would have more enemies. I owe their fathers truth, said Rob. And justice. I owe them that as well. He gazed at his crown. Lord Rickard defied me, betrayed me. I have no choice but to condemn him. Gods know what the Karstark's foot with Roose Bolton will do when they hear I've executed their liege for a traitor. Bolton must be warned. Lord Karstark's heir was at Harrenhal as well, so Brendan reminded him. The eldest son, the one the Lannisters took captive on the Green Fork. Harrion, his name is Harrion, Rob laughed bitterly. A king had best know the names of his enemies, don't you think? The Blackfish looked at him shrewdly. You know that for a certainty? That this will make young Karstark your enemy? What else would he be? I'm about to kill his father. He's not like to thank me. Edmure wanted Rob to make Karstark a hostage. There are sons who hate their fathers, and in a stroke, you will make him Lord of Karhold, said the Blackfish. Rob shook his head. Even if Harrion were that sort, he could never openly forgive his father's killer. His own men would turn on him. Pardon him then. urged Edmure Tully. Robb stared at him in frank disbelief. Spare his life, I mean. I don't like the taste of it any more than you, sire. He slew my men as well. Karstark must be punished, certainly. Keep him in chains, say. A hostage, said Catelyn. Yes, a hostage. Tell the son that so long as he remains loyal, his father will not be harmed. Otherwise, we have no hope of the phrase now. Not if I offered to marry all Lord Walder's daughters and carry his litter besides. If we should lose the Karstarks as well, what hope is there? Lysa is hiding in the Vale like she's a child. We've had naught from Sir Roderick in the north. No response from Walder Frey to our new offer. Only silence from the Eyrie. Robb appealed to his mother. Will your sister never answer us? How many times must I write her? I will not believe that none of the birds have reached her. Her son wanted comfort, but her king needed truth. The birds have reached her, though she may tell you they did not, if it ever comes to that. Expect no help from that quarter, Robb. Lysa was never brave. When we were girls together, she would run and hide whenever she'd done something wrong. Perhaps she thought our Lord Father would forget to be wroth with her if he could not find her. It is no different now. She's ran from King's Landing for fear, to the safest place she knows, and she sits on her mountain hoping everyone will forget her. Robb wondered if anyone would thank him for killing Lord Karstark. When everyone was shouting, King in the North, King in the North, I told myself, swore to myself, that I would be a good king, as honorable as father, strong, just, loyal to my friends, and brave when I face my enemies. Now, I can't even tell one from the other. How did it all get so confused? Lord Rickard's fought at my side in half a dozen battles. His sons died for me in the Whispering Wood. Tion Frey and William Lannister were my enemies. Yet now I have to kill my dead friend's father for their sakes. Will the Lannisters thank me for Lord Rickard's head? Will the Freys? No, said Brandon Blackfish. All the more reason to spare Rickard's life and keep him hostage, Edmure urged. Robb reached down and lifted the crown and set it back atop his head, and suddenly he was a king again. Lord Rickard dies. Robb wondered why any man would want to be king. The Knights of the Vale could make all the difference in this war, said Robb. But if she will not fight, so be it. I've asked only that she open the bloody gate for us. The high road would be hard, but not so hard as fighting our way up the neck. If I could land at White Harbour, I could flank Moat Caitlin and drive the Ironmen from the north in half a year. It will not happen, sire, said the Blackfish. Cat is right. Lady Lysa is too fearful to admit an army to the Vale. Any army. The bloody gate will remain closed. The others can take her then, Robb cursed in a fury of despair. Bloody Rickard Karstark as well, and Theon Greyjoy, Walder Frey, Tywin Lannister, and all the rest of them. Gods be good. Why would any man ever want to be king? This is what Jon thought if he could kill Mance Rayder before the wildlings marched south. If Jon must slay a man he half admired and almost liked to save the North from the mercies of Rattleshirt and Harama Dogshead and the earless Magna of Then, that was what he was meant to do. Mormont will not run, Jon thought. He is too old and he has come too far. He will strike, and damn the numbers. One day soon he would hear the sound of war horns and see a column of riders pounding down on them with black cloaks flapping and cold steel in their hands. 300 men could not hope to kill 100 times their number, of course, but Jon did not think they would need to. He need not slay 1,000, only one. Mance is all that keeps them together. Robb follows Eddard's stance on he who gives the word must swing the blade. The great Jon's men led Lord Karstark through the press, hands still bound. Long Lu waited beside the block, but Robb took the poleaxe from his hand and ordered him to step aside. This is my work, he said. He dies at my word, he must die by my hand. Lord Karstark dipped his head stiffly. For that much I thank you, but for naught else. The blood of the first men flows in my veins as much as yours, boy. You would do well to remember that. I was named for your grandfather. I raised my banners against King Aerys for your father, and against King Joffrey for you. At Oxcross I rode beside you, and I stood with Lord Eddard on the trident. We are kin, Stark and Karstark. This kinship did not stop you from betraying me, Robb said, and it will not save you now. Kneel, my lord. Jean thought Robb should have used a headsman to kill Lord Karstark. At evenfall, Jean Westerling came to see Catelyn. The young queen entered the solar timidly. Lady Catelyn, I do not mean to disturb you. You are most welcome here, your grace. Catelyn had been sewing, but she put the needle aside now. Please, call me Jean. I don't feel like a grace. You are one nonetheless. Please, come sit, your grace. How might I serve you? It's Robb, the girl said. He's so miserable, so angry and disconsolate. I don't know what to do. It is a hard thing to do to take a man's life. I know. I told him he should use a headsman. When Lord Tywin sends a man to die, all he does is give the command. It's easier that way, don't you think? Yes, said Catelyn, but my lord husband taught his sons that killing should never be easy. Lord Karstark called Robb a kinslayer. Lord Karstark had spoken truly, Catelyn knew. The Karstarks traced their descent to Carlin Stark, a younger son of Winterfell. The castle he built had been named Karl's Hold, but that soon became Karhold, and over the centuries the Karhold Starks had become Karstarks. Old gods or new, it makes no matter. No man is as cursed as the kinslayer. Kneel, traitor, Robb said again, or must I have them force your head onto the block? Lord Karstark knelt. The gods shall judge you, as you have judged me. He laid his head upon the block. Rickard Karstark, Lord of Karhold. Robb lifted the heavy axe with both hands. Here, in sight of gods and men, I judge you guilty of murder and high treason. In mine own name, I condemn you. With mine own hand, I take your life. Would you speak a final word? Kill me and be cursed. You are no king of mine. Kit Harington almost lost a testicle filming season 8. So Kit Harington was put on a mechanical dragon Buck, and here's what happened. Buck work is not easy, said Harington. I think what sums up the Buck for me was there was a bit of where Jon almost falls off. The dragon swings around really violently and my right testicle got trapped and I didn't have time to say stop and I was being swung around. In my head, I thought, this is how it ends for my testicle. The Tyrion and Cersei actors were friends before Game of Thrones, and before Game of Thrones started filming the show for the first time, they were still looking for someone to play Cersei, and it was Peter Dinklage, or Tyrion, who insisted they cast Lena Headey for the role of Cersei. This was probably due to her experience playing Sarah Connor in the Terminator TV series and King Leonidas' queen, Gorgo, in Zack Snyder's 300. Ryan Condal, showrunner of House of the Dragon, and George R.R. Martin reportedly had creative tensions during Season 2. Martin, who originally hand-picked Condal, grew frustrated as Condal and HBO made major story changes without his full input, especially around key character arcs and pacing. While Martin remains publicly supportive, insiders say he feels sidelined, similar to how he felt during later Game of Thrones seasons. Condal, meanwhile, wants to keep the show streamlined for TV audiences. Their relationship hasn't completely broken, but it's definitely being strained, with Martin hinting at his dissatisfaction in recent blog posts before deleting them. No one knows who left the infamous coffee cup on set, or what Starbucks drink it was, but it appeared right in front of Jon Snow's seat during a key scene. It's unclear whether it was a simple oversight, missed by actors, producers, and editors alike, or a cheeky move to stir up conversation. However, on a later date, executive producer Bernie Caulfield confirmed it was just an honest mistake. Hilariously, the cast playfully blamed one another afterward, but no one ever owned up to being the culprit. Sophie Turner, who betrays Sansa Stark, managed to convince her family to adopt the dog that played her direwolf on Game of Thrones. You might remember that Lady was sadly killed by Ned Stark on Cersei's demand. Sophie Turner said this about it. Growing up, I always wanted a dog, but my parents never wanted one. We kind of fell in love with my character's direwolf, Lady, on set. We knew Lady died on the show and they wanted to rehome her, so we took her in. Conleth Hill, who betrayed Varys on Game of Thrones, was deeply frustrated when he read the script revealing his character's death in Season 8. Hill admitted he felt disappointed and frustrated because he believed Varys, once one of the show's most cunning players, had been sidelined. He found out about his character's fate during a table read and was so upset that he visibly closed his script in front of everyone. Hill later said he felt the abrupt writing shift really stung him personally. Jean wasn't sure how to comfort Rob. Rob has not eaten all day. He spent all morning writing a letter and told me not to disturb him, but when the letter was done, he burnt it. Now he is sitting and looking at maps. I asked him what he was looking for, but he never answered. I want to be a good wife to him, I do, but I don't know how to help. Please, my lady, you're his mother. Tell me, what should I do? Sometimes, Catelyn said slowly, the best thing you can do is nothing. When I first came to Winterfell, I was hurt whenever Ned went to the Godswood to sit beneath his heart tree. Jean, child, you have wed the North, as I did, and in the North the winters will come. She tried to smile. Be patient, be understanding. He loves you and he needs you, and he will come back to you soon enough. The original Game of Thrones pilot was an infamous disaster, so bad it was buried and never shown to the public. Filmed in 2009, it was plagued with casting mistakes, confusing storytelling, and production missteps. In a desperate bid to save the project, HBO ordered sweeping rewrites, recast major characters, and overhauled the crew. Only after the massive rescue effort did the show rise from the ashes and debut in 2011, becoming the phenomenon we know today. Catelyn told Jean she needs to give Rob an heir. Jean, there's one more thing Rob needs from you, though he may not know it yet himself. A king must have an heir. The girl smiled at that. My mother says the same. I told Rob I'm sure to give him twins, an Eddard and a Brandon. He liked that, I think. We try most every day, my lady, sometimes twice or more. The girl blushed very prettily. I'll be with child soon, I promise. I pray to our mother above every night. Very good. I will add my prayers as well, to the old gods and the new. When the girl had gone, Catelyn turned back to her father. An Eddard and a Brandon, she sighed softly. The girl did seem to have a good heart, just as Rob had said, and good hips, which might be more important. Jaime tried to antagonize Brienne into unchaining his hands. 6 maids there were in a spring-fed pool. What are you doing? Brienne demanded. Singing. 6 maids in a pool. I'm sure you've heard of it. And shy little maids they were too. Rather like you, though somewhat prettier, I'll warrant. Be quiet, the wench said. Please, Jaime, pleaded cousin Cleos. Lord Mouton is sworn to Riverrun. We don't want to draw him out of his castle, and there may be other enemies hiding in the rubble. Hers or ours? They are not the same, cuz. I have a yen to see if the wench can use that sword she wears. If you won't be quiet, you leave me no choice but to gag you, Kingslayer. Unchain my hands and I'll play mute all the way to King's Landing. What would be fairer than that, wench? Brienne, my name is Brienne. Jaime and Cersei have always been together, even when children. Jaime could never bear to be long apart from his twin. Even as children, they would creep into each other's beds and sleep with their arms entwined. Even in the womb, long before his sister's flowering or the advent of his own manhood, they had seen mares and stallions in the fields and dogs and bitches in the kennels and played at doing the same. Once their mother's maid had caught them at it. He did not recall what they had been doing, but whatever it was had horrified Lady Joanna. She'd sent the maid away, moved Jaime's bedchamber to the other side of Castle Rock, set a guard outside Cersei's, and told them they must never do that again, or she would have no choice but to tell their Lord Father. They need not have feared though. It was not long after that she died birthing Tyrion. While filming a scene on Game of Thrones, Jason Momoa chose to wear a bright pink fluffy sock as a modesty cover to make Emilia Clarke laugh and ease the tension. Clarke recalled the moment, saying she was shocked and couldn't stop laughing during takes. Momoa later explained it was freezing in Belfast, and after waiting days to shoot the scene, he decided to lighten the mood with the playful choice. He wore the sock, turning the awkward moment into something silly to help Clarke through the intense scene. Jaime wants to marry Cersei even if Joffrey loses his claim. Perhaps Stannis Baratheon and the Starks had done them a kindness. They had spread their tale of incest all over the 7 kingdoms, so there was nothing left to hide. Why shouldn't I marry Cersei openly and share her bed every night? The dragons always married their sisters. Septons, lords, and small folk had turned a blind eye to the Targaryens for hundreds of years. Let them do the same for House Lannister. It would play havoc with Joffrey's claim to the crown, to be sure. But in the end, it had been swords that had won the Iron Throne for Robert, and swords could keep Joffrey there as well, regardless of whose seat he was. We could marry him to Myrcella once we'd sent Sansa Stark back to her mother. That would show the realm that the Lannisters are above their laws, like gods and Targaryens. After filming season 1 of Game of Thrones, Emilia Clarke suffered a life-threatening brain aneurysm in 2011, followed by a second one later. She underwent 2 major surgeries, one involving minimally invasive coiling, experienced memory loss, and severe pain. At just 24, Clarke faced many challenges during recovery, but returned to work determined. She kept her condition private while filming and eventually made a full recovery. Now, she helps others with brain injuries through her charity, Same You, and credits her survival to her family, doctors, and friends. Jaime was going to keep his word to Catelyn Stark about returning her daughters to the north. Jaime had decided that he would return Sansa, and the younger girl as well if she could be found. It was not like to win him back his lost honor, but the notion of keeping faith when they had all expected betrayal amused him more than he could say. Emilia Clarke revealed that her first acting role was Game of Thrones, and she felt incredibly lucky to share her early intense scenes with Jason Momoa. Fresh out of drama school, she hadn't realized how intimate the role would be, but praised Momoa for being kind and protective. He was crying more than I was, reflecting how supportive Momoa was during difficult scenes. Clarke later admitted that continuing into season 2 without him was tough. Jaime wanted his dead cousin's clothes the second he died. The last I saw of cousin Cleos, his palfrey was using his head to plow a furrow. Though I suppose we ought to find him. He is a Lannister of sorts. They found Cleos still tangled in his stirrup. He had an arrow through his right arm and a second in his chest, but it was the ground that had done for him. The top of his head was matted with blood and mushy to the touch, pieces of broken bone moving under the skin beneath the pressure of Jaime's hand. Brienne knelt and held his hand. He's still warm. He'll cool soon enough. I want his horse and his clothes. I'm wary of rags and fleas. He was your cousin, the wench was shocked. Was, Jaime agreed. Have no fear, I am amply provisioned in cousins. I'll have his sword as well. You need someone to share the watches. Peter Dinklage was the only choice to play Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones, but he was hesitant to accept the role. Having previously played a dwarf in Prince Caspian, he was wary of fantasy tropes and didn't want to be typecast. Initially saying no, Dinklage was eventually won over by the show's strong pilot script and conversations with creators David Benioff and D.B. Weiss, helped by his friendship with Benioff's wife, Amanda Peet. George R.R. Martin said if Dinklage had declined, they would have been in serious trouble. George R.R. Martin says writing The Red Wedding was the hardest thing he's ever done. The shocking massacre featured in the 3rd book and season of Game of Thrones involved the deaths of major characters. Martin admitted he skipped the chapter, finishing the rest of the book before going back. It was painful to kill characters I'd lived with for so long, he said. When the book was released, fans reacted with outrage, some even swearing off his work. Martin wasn't surprised when the TV adaptation caused the same emotional backlash years later. The final season of Game of Thrones featured a grueling battle at Winterfell, so intense that one actress reportedly fainted on set. The epic showdown pits Jon Snow, Daenerys, Arya, Sansa, Brienne, and others against the army of the dead. Arya, played by Maisie Williams, experienced her first battle scene and described it as emotionally and physically exhausting, saying she felt broken at times. Directed by Mikhail Sapochnik, the sequence is the longest battle ever filmed, surpassing the 40-minute clash in The Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers. Arya remembered exactly how the tickler questioned people. "You know what it means, to be put to the question?" Arya nodded. Tickling, they called it. Polliver and Raff and all. She told them about where she and Gendry had been caught, and the questions that the tickler had asked. Is there gold hidden in the village? He would always begin. Silver, gems, is there food? Where is Lord Beric? Which of you village folk helped him? Where did he go? How many men did he have with him? How many knights? How many bowmen? How many were horsed? How are they armed? How many wounded? Where did they go, did you say?" Just thinking of it, she could hear the shrieks again and smell the stench of blood and shit and burning flesh. "He always asked the same questions," she told the outlaw solemnly, "but he changed the tickling every day. No child should be made to suffer that," Harwin said when she was done. Arya wasn't sure her mother even wanted her back. "You're a young fool, Archer. If we go to Riverrun, it'll only be to collect her ransom. Won't be no time for you to sit about making bows," said Tom. Arya turned to Harwin. What did he mean about ransom? "We have sore needs of horses, milady. Armor as well. Swords, shields, spears, all the things coin can buy. Aye, and seed for planting. Winter is coming, remember?" He touched her under the chin. "You will not be the first highborn captive we've ransomed, nor the last, I'd hope." That much was true, Arya knew. Knights were captured and ransomed all the time, and sometimes women were too. But what if Robb won't pay their price? She wasn't a famous knight, and kings were supposed to put the realm before their sisters. And her lady mother, what would she say? Would she still want her back after all the things she'd done? Arya chewed her lip and wondered. Beric's men believe they can end the conflict if they follow Eddard's orders. "The Mountain lost half his men at the stone mill, we hear. Might be this tickle is floating down the Red Fork even now, with fish biting at his face. If not, well, it's one more crime they'll answer for. I've heard his lordship say this war began when the Hands sent him out to bring the king's justice to Gregor Clegane, and that's how he means for it to end. Beric doesn't inform all his followers where he is, so no one can betray him. What matters is we have the scent now. You'll soon be seeing Thoris and the Lightning Lord, I'll wager." "If you're their men, why do they hide from you?" Arya said. Tom Sevenstrings rolled his eyes at that, but Harwin gave her an answer. "I wouldn't call it hiding, milady. But it's true, Lord Beric moves about a lot, and seldom lets on what his plans are. That way, no one can betray him. By now, there must be hundreds of us sworn to him, maybe thousands, but it wouldn't do for all of us to trail along behind him. The way we're scattered in little bands, we can strike in a dozen places at once, and be off somewhere else before they know, and when one of us is caught and put to the question, well, we can't tell them where to find Lord Beric, no matter what they do to us." Lady Smallwood gifted Arya her daughter's gowns. "I sent my daughter away when the war began. She'll have outgrown these by the time she returns, no doubt. Are you fond of dancing, child? My Caroline's a lovely dancer. She sings beautifully as well. What do you like to do?" "Needlework." "Very restful, isn't it?" "Well," said Arya, "not the way I do it." "No, I have always found it so. The gods give us each our little gifts and talents, and it is meant for us to use them. Any act can be a prayer if done as well as we are able. Do you work at it every day?" "I did, till I lost needle. My new one's not as good. In times like these, we all must do as best we can." Lady Smallwood fussed at the bodice of the gown. "Now you look a proper young lady." "I'm not a lady," Arya wanted to tell her. "I'm a wolf." Arya heard that Robb's men had just been seen at Lady Smallwood's castle before she arrived. "A pack of wolves came howling around my gates, thinking I might have Jaime Lannister in here." Tom stopped his plucking. "Then it's true. The Kingslayer is loose again. I hardly think they'd be hunting him if he was chained up under Riverrun." "I believe they made for Blackbottom Bend." Arya squirmed restlessly in her seat. "What Northman was it? Who came looking after the Kingslayer?" Lady Smallwood seemed surprised that she had spoken. "They did not give their names, child, but they wore black, with the badge of a white sun on the breast." A white sun on black was the sigil of Lord Karstark, Arya thought. Those were Robb's men. She wondered if they were still close, if she could give the outlaws the slip and find them. Maybe they would take her to her mother at Riverrun. Gendry met Thoris at King's Landing. "This Thoris, is he the same Thoris who lived in the castle at King's Landing? A red priest, fat with a shaved head?" "I think so." Arya had never spoken to Thoris at King's Landing that she could recall, but she knew who he was. "He won't remember me, but he used to come to our forge." The small wood forge had not been used in some time, though the smith had hung his tools neatly on the wall. Gendry lit a candle and set it on the anvil when he took down a pair of tongs. "My master always scolded him about his flaming swords. It was no way to treat good steel, he'd say. But this Thoris never used good steel. He just dipped some cheap sword in wildfire and set it alight. It was only an alchemist's trick, my master said, but it scared the horses and some of the greener knights. Gendry complimented Arya's looks after realizing who she was. You look different now, like a proper little girl. I look like an oak tree with all these stupid acorns. Nice though, a nice oak tree. He stepped closer and sniffed at her. You even smell nice for a change. You don't, you stink. Arya shoved him back against the anvil and made to run, but Gendry caught her arm. She stuck a foot between his legs and tripped him, but he yanked her down with him. He was very strong, but she was quicker. Every time he tried to hold her still, she wriggled free and punched him. Gendry only laughed at the blows, which made her mad. He finally caught both her wrists in one hand and started to tickle her with the other, so Arya slammed her knee between his legs and wrenched free. Both of them were covered in dirt. I bet I don't look so nice now, she shouted. Arya found out that her mother let Jaime go free. Did they say how Lannister came to escape? Lem asked. They did, said Lady Smallwood. Not that I believe a word of it. They claimed that Lady Catelyn set him free. That startled Tom so badly, he snapped a string. Go on with you, he said. That's madness. It's not true, thought Arya. It couldn't be true. I thought the same, said Lady Smallwood. That was when Harwin remembered Arya. Such talk is not for your ears, my lady. No, I want to hear. The outlaws were adamant. Go on with you, squinny squirrel, said Greenbeard. Be a good little lady and go play in the yard while we talk now. Arya stalked away, angry. The gates of the little castle were closed and barred. She had promised Harwin that she would not try and run away again, she knew. But that was before they started telling lies about her mother. It was Jorah who told Dany not to reveal she spoke High Valyrian. Tell the Westerosi to lower her eyes, the slaver Crannies complained to the slave girl who spoke for him. I deal in meat, not metal. The bronze is not for sale. Tell her to look at the soldiers. Even the dim purple eyes of a sunset savage can see how magnificent my creatures are, surely. Craney's High Valyrian was twisted, yet Dany understood him well enough. But she smiled and looked blankly at the slave girl as if wondering what he might have said. The good Master Craney's asks, are they not magnificent? The girl spoke the common tongue well, for one who had never been to Westeros. No older than 10. They might be adequate to my needs, Dany answered. It had been Ser Jorah's suggestion that she speak only Dothraki and the common tongue while in Astapor. My bear is more clever than he looks. Dany was insulted when asking of the Unsullied's training. Tell me of their training. The Westerosi woman is pleased with them, but speaks no praise to keep down the price, the translator told her master. She wishes to know how they were trained. Craney's bobbed his head. He smelled as if he'd bathed in raspberries, this slaver, and his jutting red-black beard glistened with oil. He has larger breasts than I do, Dany reflected. She could see them through the thin green silk of the gold-fringed toga he wound about his body, and over one shoulder. His left hand held the toga in place as he walked, while his right clasped a short leather whip. Are all Westerosi pigs so ignorant? He complained. All the world knows that the Unsullied are masters of spear and shield and short sword. He gave Dany a broad smile. Tell her what she would know, slave, and be quick about it. The day is hot. The Unsullied would stand till they die if commanded. Craney supposedly spoke no word of the common tongue, but he bobbed his head as he listened. Tell her that these have been standing here for a day and a night, with no food nor water. Tell her that they will stand until they drop if I should command it, and when 999 have collapsed to die upon the bricks, the last will stand there still, and never move until his own death claims him. Such is their courage. Tell her that. 1,000 Unsullied were marched out in a blazing heat for Dany to inspect. They wore naught but white linen clouts knotted about their loins, and conical bronze helms topped with a sharpened spike a foot tall. Craney's had commanded them to lay down their spears and shields, and doff their sword belts and quilted tunics, so the Queen of Westeros might better inspect the lean hardness of their bodies. They had chosen young for size and speed and strength, the slave told her. They begin their training at 5. Every day they train from dawn to dusk until they have mastered the short sword, the shield, and the 3 spears. The training is most rigorous, Your Grace. Only 1 boy in 3 survives it. This is well known. Among the Unsullied, it is said that on the day they win their spiked cap, the worst is done with, for no duty that will ever fall to them could be as hard as their training. Children get sold to become Unsullied. Dani walked slowly down the line of slave soldiers. The girls followed close behind with a silk awning to keep her in the shade. But the 1,000 men before her enjoyed no such protection. More than half had the copper skin and almond eyes of the Dothraki and Lezarene, but she saw men of the free cities in the ranks as well, along with pale Carthene, even-faced Summer Islanders, and others whose origins she could not guess. And some had skins of the same amber hue as Cranie's, and the bristly red-black hair that marked the ancient folk of Gis, who named themselves the Harpy Sons. They sell even their own kind. Some of the soldiers were tall and some were short. They ranged in age from 14 to 20, she judged. Their cheeks were smooth and their eyes all the same, be they black or brown or blue or grey or amber. They are like one man, Dani thought. All the Unsullied are eunuchs because it supposedly makes them without fear. They are like one man, Dani thought, until she remembered that they were no men at all. The Unsullied were eunuchs, every one of them. Why do you cut them? She asked Cranie's through the slave girl. Whole men are stronger than eunuchs, I have always heard. A eunuch who is cut young will never have the brute strength of one of your Westerosi knights. This is true, said Cranie's when the question was put to him. A bull is strong as well, but bulls die every day in the fighting pits. A girl of 9 killed one not 3 days past in Jothawiel's pit. The Unsullied have something better than strength, tell her. They have discipline. We fight in the fashion of the old empire, yes. They are the lockstep legions of old Gis come again, absolutely obedient, absolutely loyal, and utterly without fear. The Unsullied will ask for more whipping if it pleases their masters. Even the bravest men fear death and maiming, Arston said. Tell the old man that he smells of piss and needs a stick to hold him up. Truly, your worship. He poked her with his lash. No, not truly. Are you a girl or a goat to ask such folly? Say that Unsullied are not men. Say that death means nothing to them. He stopped before a thick-set man who had the look of a lazar about him and brought his whip up sharply, laying a line of blood across one copper cheek. The eunuch blinked and stood there, bleeding. Would you like another? Asked Cranie's. If it pleases your worship. It was hard to pretend not to understand. Dani laid a hand on Cranie's arm before he could raise the whip again. Tell the good master that I see how strong his Unsullied are, and how bravely they suffer pain. The Unsullied have a secret drink which makes them not feel pain. They feel no pain, you see? How can that be? She demanded. The wine of courage, was the answer he gave her. It is no true wine at all, but made from deadly nightshade and many secret things. They drink it with every meal from the day they are cut, and with each passing year feel less and less. It makes them fearless in battle, nor can they be tortured. Tell the savage her secrets are safe with the Unsullied. In Yunkai and Marine, eunuchs are often made by removing a boy's testicles, but leaving the Such a creature is infertile, yet often still capable of erection. Only trouble can come of this. We remove the P as well, leaving nothing. The Unsullied are the purest creatures on the earth. He gave Dani and Arston another of his broad white smiles. Unsullieds feel no pain. Cranie's moved to the next eunuch in line. Your sword, he said. The eunuch knelt, unsheathed the blade, and offered it up hilt first. Stand, Cranie's commanded. Your worship. The eunuch stood, and Cranie slid the sword slowly up his torso, leaving a thin red line across his belly and between his ribs. Then he jabbed the sword point in beneath a wide pink nipple and began to work it back and forth. What is he doing? Dani demanded, as the blood ran down the man's chest. Tell the cow to stop her bleating, said Cranie's. This will do him no great harm. Men have no need of nipples. The nipple hung by a thread of skin. He slashed and sent it tumbling to the bricks. The eunuch did not move until Cranie's offered him back his sword. Here, I'm done with you. This one is pleased to have served you. Cranie's turned back to Dani. They feel no pain, you see. The Unsullied have no temptations in the world. I have heard that in the Sunset Kingdoms, men take solemn vows to keep chaste and father no children, but live only for their duty. Is it not so? It is, Arston said, when the question was put. There are many such orders, the maesters of the Citadel, the septons and scepters who serve the Seven, the King's Guard and the Night's Watch. Poor things, growled the slaver after the translation. Men were not made to live thus. Their days are a torment of temptation, any fool must see, and no doubt most succumb to their baser selves. Not so our Unsullied. They are wed to their swords in a way that your sworn brothers cannot hope to match. No woman can ever tempt them, nor any man. There are other ways to tempt men, beside the flesh, Aston Whitebeard objected. Men, yes, but not Unsullied. They own nothing but their weapons. We do not even permit them names. An Unsullied must kill an infant in front of his mother to earn his spiked cap. Those who cannot are culled in training, along with those who cannot run all day in full pack, scale a mountain in the black of night, walk across a bed of coals, or slay an infant. Dani turned away quickly. Whose infants do they slay? To win his spiked cap, an Unsullied must go to the slave mart with a silver mark, find some wailing newborn and kill it before its mother's eyes. In this way, we make certain that there is no weakness left in them. She was feeling faint. You take a babe from its mother's arms, kill it as she watches, and pay for her pain with a silver coin. When the translation was made for him, Cranies laughed aloud. What a soft-muling fool this one is. Tell the of Westeros that the mark is for the child's owner, not the mother. The Unsullied are not permitted to steal. The Unsullied change names every day. They have no names. It is so, Your Grace. Craney stopped in front of a Jaskari who might have been his taller, fitter brother, and flicked his lash at a small bronze disc on the sword belt at his feet. There is his name. Ask the Ore of Westeros whether she can read Jaskari glyphs. When Dani admitted that she could not, the slaver turned to the Unsullied. What is your name? He demanded. This one's name is Red Flea, Your Worship. The girl repeated their exchange in the common tongue. And yesterday, what was it? Black Rat, Your Worship. The day before, Brown Flea, Your Worship. Before that, this one does not recall, Your Worship. Blue Toad, perhaps, or Blue Worm. Tell her all their names are such. It reminds them that by themselves they are vermin. The name discs are thrown in an empty cask at duty's end, and each dawn plucked up again at random. The hardest test for the Unsullied isn't killing a newborn baby in front of their mother, but the dog test. Tell her that few ever failed that test. The dogs are harder for them, it must be said. We give each boy a puppy on the day that he is cut. At the end of the first year, he is required to strangle it. Any who cannot are killed and fed to the surviving dogs. It makes for a good, strong lesson, we find. The Unsullied are normally sold in lots of hundreds or thousands. The good master has said that these eunuchs cannot be tempted with coin or flesh, Dani told the girl. But if some enemy of mine should offer them freedom for betraying me, they would kill him out of hand and bring her his head. Tell her that, the slaver answered. Other slaves may steal and hoard up silver in hopes of buying freedom, but an Unsullied would not take it if the little mare offered it as a gift. They have no life outside their duty. They are soldiers, and that is all. It is soldiers that I need, Dani admitted. How many Unsullied do you have to sell? 8,000 fully trained and available at present. We sell them only by unit, by the thousandths or the century. Once we sold by the 10 as household guards, but that proved unsound. They mingle with other slaves and forget who and what they are. The Unsullied are compared to Valyrian steel. This beggar queen must understand, such wonders do not come cheaply. In Yunkai and Meereen, slave swordsmen can be had for less than the price of their swords, but Unsullied are the finest foot in all the world, and each represents many years of training. Tell her they are like Valyrian steel, folded over and over and hammered for years on end until they are stronger and more resilient than any metal on earth. I know of Valyrian steel, said Dani. Ask the good master if the Unsullied have their own officers. You must set your own officers over them. We train them to obey, not to think. If it is wits she wants, let her buy scribes. And their gear? Sword, shield, spear, sandals, and quilted tunic are included, said Cranies. And the spiked caps to be sure. They will wear such armor as you wish, but you must provide it. Dani could think of no more questions. Whitebeard fears that if Dani uses the slave army, Westeros will unite against her. You have lived long in the world, Whitebeard. Now that you have seen them, what do you say? I say no, Your Grace, the old man answered at once. Why? She asked. Speak freely. My queen, there have been no slaves in the Seven Kingdoms for thousands of years. The old gods and the new alike hold slavery to be an abomination, evil. if you should land in Westeros at the head of a slave army, many good men will oppose you for no other reason than that. You will do great harm to your cause, and to the honor of your house. Yet I must have some army, Dany said. The boy Joffrey will not give me the Iron Throne for asking politely. When the day comes that you raise your banners, half of Westeros will be with you, Whitebeard promised. Your brother Rhaegar is still remembered with great love. And my father? Initially, Dany didn't intimidate cranies at all. I must consider carefully, the slaver shrugged. Tell her to consider quickly. There are many other buyers. Only 3 days past I showed the same unsullied to a Corsair king who hopes to buy them all. The Corsair wanted only 100, your worship, Dany heard the slave girl say. He poked her with the end of the whip. Corsairs are all liars. He'll buy them all. Tell her that, girl. Dany knew that she would take more than 100, if she took any at all. Remind your good master of who I am. Remind him that I am Daenerys Stormborn, mother of dragons, the unburnt, true-born queen of the 7 kingdoms of Westeros. My blood is the blood of Aegon the Conqueror and of old Valyria before him. Yet her words did not move the plump, perfumed slaver, even when rendered in his own ugly tongue. Old Gis ruled an empire when the Valyrians were still effing sheep. Dany wasn't sure how many people would greet her arrival in Westeros positively. Your Grace, you have no need of slaves. Majesty Illyroy can keep you safe while your dragons grow, and send secret envoys across the narrow sea on your behalf, to sound out the High Lords for your cause. Those same High Lords who abandoned my father to the Kingslayer and bent the knee to Robert the Usurper, even those who bent their knees may yearn in their hearts for the return of the dragons. May, said Dany. That was such a slippery word. May. Rhys Ifans, who plays Otto Hightower in House of the Dragon, has reportedly become infamous on set for constantly trying to break his co-stars out of character. Actors like Millie Alcock, Fabian Frankel, and Matt Smith have spoken about how difficult it is to work with him, calling the experience unbearable. Though his character is serious and political, Ifans is said to behave like a prankster during filming. His antics have become a regular disruption, creating challenges for both the actors and the production team. Emma D'Arcy faced a chaotic road to looking the part. During auditions, their biggest hurdle was nailing the Targaryen hair. Without access to proper wigs due to the pandemic, D'Arcy resorted to hot gluing hair extension to wig grips, sending photos to director Mikhail with each attempt. After multiple tries, they finally landed on a look that worked. Her partner would spend 90 minutes doing their hair before each tape. Despite the struggle, D'Arcy ultimately embodied the queen Team Black needed. Matt Smith, who plays Prince Daemon Targaryen, wasn't exactly thrilled with one part of the production: wigs. Known for their iconic silver-white hair, the Targaryens required a lot of them on set, and Smith found them to be a real hassle. Speaking at San Diego Comic-Con 2022, Smith joked that the Targaryens should change up their style and that his first royal decree would be to let Targaryens dye their hair instead, saying the wigs were a pain in the ass. Ewan Mitchell, who plays Aemon Targaryen in House of the Dragon, revealed that his portrayal was inspired by classic horror icons, especially Michael Myers. From his sapphire eye to his fearsome dragon, Aemon is meant to feel intimidating and otherworldly. Mitchell said he avoided watching Game of Thrones to keep his performance unique, and instead drew from characters like Fassbender's David in Prometheus, Kirk Douglas in The Vikings, and Peter O'Toole in Lawrence of Arabia. He found Michael Myers' slow, unstoppable presence especially compelling, capturing that sense of inevitability. Cranies continued to offer and insult Daenerys in front of her because he thought she didn't understand. Tell the that if she requires a guide to our sweet city, Cranies will gladly serve her, and service her as well, if she is more woman than she looks. Good Maester Cranies would be most pleased to show you Astapor while you ponder, your grace, the translator said. I will feed her jelly dog brains and a fine rich stew of red octopus and unborn puppy, he wiped his lips. Many delicious dishes can be had here, he says. Dorkwar's Pit has a fine folly scheduled for the evening. A bear and 3 small boys. 1 boy will be rolled in honey, 1 in blood, and 1 in rotting fish. And she may wager on which the bear will eat first. Dany made herself smile. I have my own bear on Balerion, she told the translator. and he may well eat me if I do not return to him. Dani will not leave Astapor without an army. When I leave Astapor, it must be with an army, Sir Jorah says. Sir Jorah was a slaver himself, your grace, the old man reminded her. There are sellswords in Pentos and Myr and Tyrosh you can hire. My brother visited Pentos, Myr, Braavos, near all the free cities. The magisters and archons fed him wine and promises, but his soul was starved to death. A man cannot sup from the beggar's bowl all his life and stay a man. I had my taste in Karth. That was enough. I will not come to Pentos bowl in hand. Better to come a beggar than a slaver, Arstan said. There speaks one who has been neither. Dani's nostrils flared. Do you know what it is like to be sold, squire? I do. My brother sold me to Khal Drogo for the promise of a golden crown. Do you think I have forgotten how it felt to be afraid? Whitebeard insists that Dani should not be corrupted by Astapor. An old city this, she reflected, but not so populous as it was in its glory, nor near so crowded as Karth or Pentos or Lys. Her litter came to a sudden halt at the cross street, to allow a couple of slaves to shuffle across her path, urged along by the crack of an overseer's lash. There were no unsullied, Dani noted, but a more common sort of men. Bricks and blood built Astapor, Whitebeard murmured at her side, and bricks and blood her people. What is that? Dani asked him, curious. An old rhyme a maester taught me when I was a boy. I never knew how true it was. The bricks of Astapor are red with the blood of the slaves who make them. I can well believe that, said Dani. Then leave this place before your heart turns to brick as well. Sail this very night, on the evening tide. Would that I could, thought Dani. Dani would not eat dog because of the Unsullied's puppy test. Aggo helped Dani down from her litter. Strong Belwas was seated on a massive piling, eating a great haunch of brown roasted meat. Dog, he said happily when he saw Dani. Good dog in Astapor. Little queen, eat? He offered it with a greasy grin. That is kind of you, Belwas, but no. Dani had eaten dog in other places, at other times, but just now all she could think of was the Unsullied and their stupid puppies. Dani did not recognize the Unsullied as men. Sir Jorah Mormont stood waiting for her. Your grace, he said, bowing his head. The slavers have come and gone. How many men do they have for sale? None. Was it Mormont she was angry with, or this city with its sullen heat, its stinks and sweats and crumpling bricks? They sell eunuchs, not men. Eunuchs made of brick, like the rest of Astapor. Shall I buy 8,000 brick eunuchs with dead eyes that never move, who kill suckling babes for the sake of a spiked hat and strangle their own dogs? They don't even have names, so don't call them men, sir. Khaleesi, he said, taken aback by her fury. The Unsullied are chosen as boys and trained. I have heard all I care to of their training. Dani could feel tears welling in her eyes, sudden and unwanted. Dani wanted to leave the same day she met the Unsullied and not look back. Her hand flashed up and cracked Sir Jorah hard across the face. It was either that or cry. Mormont touched the cheek she'd slapped. If I have displeased my queen, you have. You've displeased me greatly, sir. If you were my true knight, you never would have brought me to this vile sty. If you were my true knight, you never would have kissed me or looked at my breast the way you did. Or, as your grace commands, I shall tell Captain Groleo to make ready to sail on the evening tide for some sty less vile. No, said Dani. I want to sail now, not on the tide. I want to sail far and fast and never look back. But I can't, can I? There are 8,000 brick eunuchs for sale, and I must find some way to buy them. And with that, she left him and went below. Dani's dragons went wild when she went to meet the Unsullied. Behind the carved wooden door of the captain's cabin, her dragons were restless. Drogon raised his head and screamed, pale smoke venting from his nostrils, and Viserion flapped at her and tried to perch on her shoulder, as he had when he was smaller. No, Dani said, trying to shrug him off gently. You're too big for that now, sweetling. But the dragon coiled his white and gold tail around one arm and dug black claws into the fabric of her sleeve, clinging tightly. Helpless, she sank into Groleo's great leather chair, giggling. They have been wild while you were gone, Khaleesi, Irri told her. Viserion clawed splinters from the door, do you see? and Drogon made to escape when the slavermen came to see them. When I grabbed his tail to hold him back, he turned and bit me." She showed Dani the marks of his teeth on her hand. Jorah explains to Dani that she must bring death if she wants to win her throne. Dusk has begun to settle over the waters of Slaver's Bay before Dani returned to the deck. She stood by the rail and looked out over Astapor. There was a soft step behind her. "Khaleesi," his voice. "Might I speak frankly?" Dani did not turn. She could not bear to look at him just now. If she did, she might well slap him again, or cry, or kiss him, and never know which was right. "Say what you will, sir." When Aegon the Dragon stepped ashore in Westeros, the kings of Vale and Rock and Reach did not rush to hand him their crowns. If you mean to sit his iron throne, you must win it as he did, with steel and dragon fire. And that will mean blood on your hands before the thing is done. Blood and fire, thought Dani. The words of House Targaryen. Dani was scared her baby dragons would burn down the ship when she went to meet with the Unsullied. Did any of them try to burn their way free? That was the thing that frightened Dani the most. No, Khaleesi. Drogon breathed his fire, but in the empty air. The slaver men feared to come near him. She kissed Irri's hand where Drogon had bitten it. "I'm sorry he hurt you. Dragons are not meant to be locked up in a small ship's cabin. Dragons are like horses in this," Irri said, "and riders too. The horses scream below, Khaleesi, and kick at the wooden walls. I hear them. And Jikwi says the old women and the little ones scream too when you are not here. They do not like this water cart. They do not like the black salt sea." "I know," Dani said. "I do, I know. My Khaleesi is sad." "Yes," Dani admitted. "Sad and lost." Jorah explains that Dani can use the Unsullied and not bring extra harm to those they conquer. "The blood of my enemies I will shed gladly. The blood of innocents is another matter. 8,000 Unsullied they would offer me. 8,000 dead babes. 8,000 strangled dogs." "Your Grace," said Jorah Mormont, "I saw King's Landing after the sack. Babes were butchered that day as well, and old men, and children at play. More women were armed than you can count. There is a savage beast in every man, and when you hand that man a sword or spear and send him forth to war, the beast stirs. Yet I have never heard of these Unsullied arring, nor putting a city to the sword, nor even plundering, save at the express at the command of those who lead them. Brick they may be, as you say, but if you buy them, henceforth the only dogs they'll kill are those you want dead." Dani wants to know why the Dothraki never attacked Astapor. Dani gazed off at the soft-colored lights and let the cool salt breeze caress her. "You speak of sacking cities. Answer me this, sir. Why have the Dothraki never sacked this city?" She pointed. "Look at the walls. You can see where they've begun to crumble. There and there. Do you see any guards on those towers? I don't. Are they hiding, sir? I saw these sons of the Harpy today, all their proud highborn warriors. They dressed in linen skirts, and the fiercest thing about them was their hair. Even a modest Khalasar could crack this Astapor like a nut and spill out the rotted meat inside. So tell me, why is that ugly Harpy not sitting beside the Godsway in Vaes Dothrak among the other stolen gods?" "You have a dragon's eye, Khaleesi. That's plain to see. I wanted an answer, not a compliment." Dani asked would Rhaegar use slaves to try and win his battles. "My queen," Jorah said slowly, "all you say is true. But Rhaegar lost on the Trident. He lost the battle, he lost the war, he lost the kingdom, and he lost his life. His blood swirled downriver with the rubies from his breastplate, and Robert the Usurper rode over his corpse to steal the Iron Throne. Rhaegar fought valiantly, Rhaegar fought nobly, Rhaegar fought honorably, and Rhaegar died." Dani is unsure whether she is like Rhaegar still if she buys the Unsullied. "Viserys would have bought as many Unsullied as he had the coin for, but you once said I was like Rhaegar." "I remember, Daenerys." "Your Grace," she corrected. "Prince Rhaegar led free men into battle, not slaves. Whitebeard said he dubbed his squires himself and made many other knights as well. There was no higher honor than to receive your knighthood from the Prince of Dragonstone. Tell me then, when he touched a man on the shoulder with his sword, what did he say? Go forth and kill the weak, or go forth and defend them. At the Trident, those brave men Viserys spoke of who died beneath our dragon banners, did they give their lives because they believed in Rhaegar's cause, or because they had been bought and paid for? Dany turned to Mormont, crossed her arms, and waited for an answer. Jorah explains why the Dothraki never attack Astapor. There are 2 reasons. Astapor's brave defenders are so much chaff, it's true. Everyone is a high officer. On feast days, they fight mock wars in the pits to demonstrate what brilliant commanders they are, but it's the eunuchs who do the dying. All the same, any enemy wanting to sack Astapor would have to know that they'd be facing Unsullied. The slavers would turn out the whole garrison in the city's defense. The Dothraki have not ridden against Unsullied since they left their braids at the gates of Qohor. And the second reason, Dany asked? Who would attack Astapor? Sir Jorah asked. Meereen and Yunkai are rivals, but not enemies. The Doom destroyed Valyria. The folk of the eastern hinterlands are old Jaskari, and beyond the hill lies Lazar, the Lamb Men, as your Dothraki call them, a notably unwarlike people. Kit Harington once avoided a speeding ticket in exchange for a Game of Thrones spoiler. I was driving back from my parents' house, and I was driving too fast, Harington said. I was being a bit naughty. After being pulled over for speeding, he sheepishly apologized to the officer. The cop gave him 2 choices: go to the station or reveal whether Jon Snow survives the next season. Kit chose the latter, spilling the secret. The officer, satisfied, sent him off with the line, "On your way, Lord Commander." The long night episode ran for 82 minutes and took 11 weeks of night shoots to complete. 55 nights straight in freezing Belfast, often from 6 p.m. to 5 a.m. Emilia Clarke, Daenerys, recalled temperatures dropping to -14 degrees Celsius, saying it was too cold to snow. Jacob Anderson, Grey Worm, noted the cast look haunted and like part of the undead themselves. Director Miguel admitted, "I never want to do that again," a sentiment shared by many. Despite these brutal conditions, everyone agreed it was worth it. Christian Nairn is a Northern Irish actor and DJ, best known for playing Hodor in A Game of Thrones. A lifelong musician, Nairn studied music and drama at university, though music has always been his passion. He's performed internationally as a DJ and shared stages with acts like the Scissor Sisters. Despite limited acting experience, he landed the role of Hodor after auditioning, having little prior knowledge of the A Song of Ice and Fire books. Nairn believes formal training isn't essential for acting, though he's picked up techniques since joining the show. Kit Harington and Rose Leslie, who met playing Jon Snow and Ygritte on Game of Thrones, took their on-screen romance into real life. They married on June 23, 2018 at Ward Hill Castle, Leslie's family home in Scotland. Wanting their co-stars to attend, Harington asked HBO to pause filming for the big day. "I'm getting married, and it's your fault actually," he joked to producers. The star-studded wedding, though grand, was a rare public moment for the otherwise private couple. Bran says you can't love both ice and fire. But Bran's life had turned into endless chilly days on Hodor's back, riding his basket up and down the slopes of mountains. Up and down, Mira would sigh sometimes as they walked. Then down and up and down again. "I hate these stupid mountain of yours, Prince Bran. Yesterday you said you love them." "Oh, I do. My Lord Father told me about mountains, but I never saw one till now. I love them more than I can say." Bran made a face at her. "But you just said you hated them. Why can't it be both?" Mira reached up to pinch his nose. "Because they're different," he insisted, "like night and day, or ice and fire." "If ice can burn," said Jojen in his solemn voice, "then love and hate can mate. Mountain or marsh, it makes no matter. The land is one." "One," his sister agreed, but over-wrinkled. Liam Cunningham, Sir Davos, proudly admits, "I haven't left anything. I've taken everything," from the Game of Thrones set before filming wrapped. From swords to his character's finger bag, he cheekily calls it liberating the items. I got in just before lockdown, he said, joking that he now has trucks unloading all the props into his house. A perfect ending for Westeros' most legendary smuggler, his home now filled with random Game of Thrones memorabilia. Bran was frustrated that he didn't take the King's Road to find the three-eyed crow. So often they found themselves going long leagues in the wrong direction, and sometimes they were forced to double back the way they'd come. If we took the King's Road, we could be at the wall by now, Bran would remind the Reeds. He wanted to find the three-eyed crow so he could learn to fly. 100 times he said it, if he said it once, until Meera started teasing by saying it along with him. It was not safe to travel the King's Road after the Starks lost Winterfell. Bran figured him for a little. Is it far to the wall? Bran asked him as they waited for the rain to stop. Not so far as the raven flies, said the little, if that was who he was. Farther for them as lack wings. Bran started. I bet we'd be there if we took the King's Road, Meera finished with him. The little took out a knife and whittled at a stick. When there was a Stark in Winterfell, a maiden girl could walk the King's Road in her name day gown and still go unmolested, and travelers could find fire, bread, and salt at many an inn and holdfast. But the nights are colder now, and doors are closed. There's squids in the Wolf's Wood, and flayed men ride the King's Road, asking after strangers. Mountain folk knew that Bran was traveling with companions heading north. Jojen Reed stopped to catch his breath. Do you think these mountain folk know we're here? They know. Bran had seen them watching, not with his own eyes, but with Summer's sharper ones that missed so little. They won't bother us long as we don't try and make off with their goats or horses. Nor did they. Only once did they encounter any of the mountain people, when a sudden burst of freezing rain sent them looking for shelter. Summer found it for them, sniffing out a shallow cave, but Bran saw the orange glow of fire further back and realized they were not alone. Come in and warm yourselves, a man's voice called out. There's stone enough to keep the rain off all our heads. He offered them oatcakes and blood sausage and a swallow of ale from a skin he carried, but never his name, nor did he ask theirs. The quote, "You know nothing, Jon Snow," one of Ygritte's favorite phrases, but it's also a truth Jon carries with him. He's raised in privilege, yet blind to the world beyond the wall. This quote cuts through his ignorance, through the myths he believes. But it's also affectionate, teasing, a challenge, and over time, it becomes a bond between wildling and crow, between love and duty. Jon learns from Ygritte and never forgets, even after she's gone. Whitebeard begged Daenerys not to sell a dragon. "Give me all," Daenerys said, "and you may have a dragon." Whitebeard stared in shocked disbelief. His hand trembled where it grasped the staff. "No, Your Grace, I beg you. Win your throne with dragons, not slaves. You must not do this thing. You must not presume to instruct me. Ser Jorah, remove Whitebeard from my presence." Mormont seized the old man and marched him out. "Tell them I await their answer." She knew the answer though. She could see it in the glitter of their eyes and the smiles they tried so hard to hide. Astapor had thousands of eunuchs and even more slave boys waiting to be cut. But there were only 3 living dragons in all the great wide world. "A dragon of our choice," he said. "The black one is largest and healthiest. His name is Drogon," she nodded. "Done," she said, in the common tongue. "Done," the old Grazdan answered. Jon claims he never stole Ygritte, but she says otherwise. Ygritte insisted, "Like the night you stole me, the thief was bright that night." "I never meant to steal you," he said. "I never knew you were a girl until my knife was at your throat. If you kill a man and never meant, he's just as dead," Ygritte said stubbornly. Jon had never met anyone so stubborn, except maybe for his little sister, Arya. Is she still my sister? He wondered. Was she ever? He had never truly been a Stark, only Lord Eddard's motherless bastard, with no more place at Winterfell than Theon Greyjoy. And even that he'd lost. When a man of the Night's Watch said his words, he put aside his old family and joined a new one. but Jon Snow had lost those brothers too. Daenerys checked if her plan with the Unsullied would work before she sold Drogon. With all respect, Your Grace, Unsullied are not men. If I did resell them, how would I know they could not be used against me? Dany asked pointedly. Would they do that? Fight against me, even do me harm? If their master commanded, they do not question, Your Grace. All the questions have been culled from them. They obey. She looked troubled. When you are done with them, Your Grace might command them to fall upon their swords. And even that they would do. Yes. Miss Andy's voice had grown soft. Your Grace. Dany squeezed her hand. You would sooner I did not ask it of them, though. Why is that? Why do you care? This one does not. Your Grace. Tell me. The girl lowered her eyes. 3 of them were my brothers once, Your Grace. Then I hope your brothers are as brave and as clever as you. The quote, winter is coming, are the Stark words. Simple, stark, eternal. They're more than a motto, they're a warning. In Westeros, summer is fleeting and winter lasts years. But it's also symbolic. Winter is death, hardship, change. And the Starks, stoic as they are, know it always comes. Ned says this to his children, not just as a weather forecast, but as a life lesson. Prepare, endure, survive, because the cold will test you, and only the strong, the loyal, the prepared will stand. Jon told Ghost to go back to Castle Black without him. Ghost, he said quietly, on the morrow we go over. There's no steps here, no cage and crane, no way for me to get you to the other side. We have to part, do you understand? In the dark, the direwolf's red eyes looked black. The wildlings called Jon Snow a warg, but if so, he was a poor one. He did not know how to put on a wolfskin. You cannot come with me. You have to go to Castle Black. Do you understand? Can you find it? The way home. Just follow the ice east and east into the sun, and you'll find it. They will know you at Castle Black, and maybe your coming will warn them, but you have to get there by yourself. We must each hunt alone for a time. Alone. Daenerys was terrified when claiming the Unsullied. Dany handed the slaver the end of Drogon's chain. In return, he presented her with the whip, the Harpy's fingers. Krasnys named the scourge. Dany turned the whip in her hand. Is it done then? Do they belong to me? It is done, he agreed, giving the chain a sharp pull to bring Drogon down from the litter. Dany mounted her silver. She could feel her heart thumping in her chest. She felt desperately afraid. Was this what my brother would have done? She wondered if Prince Rhaegar had been this anxious when he saw the usurper's host formed up across the Trident with all their banners floating on the wind. She stood in her stirrups and raised the Harpy's fingers above her head for all the Unsullied to see. It is done, she cried at the top of her lungs. You are mine. You are the dragons now. You're bought and paid for. It is done. It is done. The quote, a Lannister always pays his debts, are not the official house words, but definitely their most feared. This quote is both a promise and a threat. It means gold, vengeance, power. Tyrion uses it with charm, Tywin with menace. And it speaks to how the Lannisters control the game, not just with swords, but with coin. They fund wars, buy loyalty, and when wronged, they remember. In Westeros, everyone pays, and the Lannisters, they collect. Jon Snow lied to the wildlings about how many men patrolled the wall. Only Eastwatch, Castle Black, and the Shadow Tower were manned when I left the wall. I can't speak to what Bowen Marsh or Sir Denys might have done since then. How many crows remain within the castle? Asked Styre. 500 at Castle Black, 200 at Shadow Tower, perhaps 300 at Eastwatch. Jon added 300 men to the count. If only it were that easy. Jarl was not fooled, however. He's lying, he told Styre, or else including those they lost on the fist. Crow, the Magnar warned. Do not take me for man's radar. If you lie to me, I will have your tongue. I'm no crow and won't be called a liar. Jon flexed the fingers of his sword hand. We shall learn their numbers soon enough, he said after a moment. Go, I will send for you if I have further questions. Little suggested to Bran and his group not to go to the wall. As to that wall, the man went on, it's not a place that I'd be going. The old bear took the watch into the haunted woods, and all that came back was his ravens, with hardly a message between them. Dark wings, dark words, me mother used to say, but when the birds fly silent, seems to me that's even darker. He poked at the fire with his stick. It was different when there was a Stark in Winterfell, but the old wolf's dead and the young one's gone south to play the Game of Thrones, and all that's left us is the ghosts. The wolves will come again, said Jojen solemnly. And how would you be knowing that, boy? I dreamed it. Some nights I dream of me mother that I buried 9 years past, the man said. But when I awake, she's not come back to us. There are dreams and dreams, my lord. Bran tried to walk into an eagle when traveling north with Mira. Mira woke him up with a light touch on his arm. Look, she said, pointing at the sky with her frog spear. An eagle. Bran lifted his head and saw it. Its grey wings spread and still as it floated on the wind. He followed it with his eyes as it circled higher, wondering what it would be like to soar about the world so effortless. Better than climbing even. He tried to reach the eagle, to leave his stupid crippled body and rise into the sky to join it, the way he joined with summer. The Greenseers could do it. I should be able to do it too. He tried and tried until the eagle vanished in the golden haze of the afternoon. It's gone, he said, disappointed. We'll see others, said Mira. They live up here, I suppose. Davos was scared Melisandre would take away his light in his cell. Are you well? Better than I was. Do you lack for anything? My king, my son, I lack for them. He pushed the bowl aside and stood. Have you come to burn me? This is a bad place, is it not? A dark place, and foul. The good sun does not shine here. She lifted a hand toward the torch. This is all that stands between you and the darkness, Onion Knight. This little fire, this gift of R'hllor. Shall I put it out? No. He moved towards the bars. Please. He did not think he could bear that, to be left alone in utter blackness with no one but the rats for company. The red woman's lips curved upward in a smile. So you have come to love the fire, it would seem. I need the torch. His hands opened and closed. I will not beg her. I will not. Bran wondered if Theon killed old Nan. Jojen kicked a pine cone. Hodor likes it when you say his name, I think. Hodor's not his true name, Bran explained. It's just some word he says. His real name is Walder. Old Nan told me. She was his grandmother's grandmother, or something. Talking about old Nan made him sad. Do you think the Iron Men killed her? She never hurt no one, not even Theon. She just told stories. Theon wouldn't hurt someone like that, would he? Some people hurt others just because they can, said Jojen. And it wasn't Theon who did the killing at Winterfell, said Mira. Too many of the dead were Iron Men. She shifted her frog spear to her other hand. Remember old Nan's stories, Bran. Remember the way she told them, the sound of her voice. So long as you do that, part of her will always be alive in you. I'll remember, he promised. Melisandre offered to make a shadow baby with Sir Davos. I am like this torch, Sir Davos. We are both instruments of R'hllor. We were made for a single purpose, to keep the darkness at bay. Do you believe that? No. Perhaps he should have lied. You are the mother of darkness. I saw that under Storm's End, when you gave birth before my eyes. Is the brave Sir Onion so frightened of a passing shadow? Take heart then. Shadows only live when given birth by light, and the king's fires burn so low. Melisandre moved closer. With another man though, a man whose flame still burns hot and high. If you truly wish to serve your king's cause, come to my chamber one night. I could give you a pleasure such as you have never known, and with your life fire I could make a horror. Davos retreated from her. I want no part of you, my lady, or your god. May the Seven protect me. Theon Greyjoy's journey might be the most heartbreaking in the entire series. He was born a Greyjoy, but raised a Stark. never quite one of them, but never truly a traitor either. He had tried to prove himself, to reclaim a name he thought mattered, by betraying the very people who loved him. That choice haunted him, broke him, turned him into Reek. But Theon didn't stay broken. He saved Sansa, he fought for his sister, and when the dead marched on Winterfell, he stood alone in front of the Night King to protect Bran, his brother in all but blood. He died a Stark, and for all his mistakes, he earned that. Theon's arc isn't about perfection, it's about redemption. About someone who lost everything, even himself, and still found a way to be brave. Kit Harington says he showed up to his Game of Thrones audition with a black eye, thanks to a fight in a McDonald's the night before. In a Vanity Fair interview, he explained he'd asked to share a table with a couple while out with a girl he was seeing. The man insulted Harrington's date, so he stood up for her and threw the first punch. He lost the fight, but jokes that the black eye helped him land the role of Jon Snow. Iwan Rheon originally auditioned to play Jon Snow, a role that ultimately went to Kit Harington. "It could have been so different," Rheon joked. Though he didn't land the part, his audition impressed producers enough to later cast him as Ramsay Bolton in Season 3. Looking back, Rheon agrees the right choice was made. "It would have been a very different Jon Snow if I'd played him." However, he did do a great job at being Ramsay Bolton. The Game of Thrones cast received the final season scripts all at once, secured with heavy passwords. After nearly a decade of waiting, they finally learned their characters' fates. Sophie Turner read hers in one sitting and felt numb, while Emilia Clarke rushed home overwhelmed, calling the experience profound. Peter Dinklage, for the first time, didn't skip ahead to see if Tyrion survived. Kit Harington refused to read the scripts beforehand, choosing to discover the story with his castmates. The team later gathered in Belfast for the final read-through. Gwendoline Christie transformed herself physically and mentally to play Brienne of Tarth. Fans had championed her for the role. She lost weight, built muscle, and trained extensively in horse riding, sword fighting, and postural work to become a believable warrior. Christie changed her lifestyle and embraced a more masculine appearance, even cutting her long hair. The physical demands were intense, especially filming her brutal fight with the Hound. A dedicated fan of the books, Christie trained in yoga, kickboxing, and running to embody Brienne's strength, spirit, and complexity. When Isaac Hempstead Wright first read the final Game of Thrones script, he thought it was a prank, only to realize it was real. He told Entertainment Weekly he was shocked at first and even secretly hoped for a dramatic death scene instead. Still, he came to appreciate the ending. "It's bittersweet," he said, echoing George R.R. Martin's intent. He admitted fans would be upset, but believed unpredictability was the best outcome. While many questioned Bran's rise to power, Wright now sees it as a fitting close to the story. Aidan Gillen, who played Littlefinger in Game of Thrones, addressed fans' fascination with his character's shifting accent. He explained that the changes were subtle and intentional, reflecting Littlefinger's journey from humble beginnings to a manipulative court player. The character consistently reinvents himself to deceive others, and Gillian mirrored that in his performance. While he acknowledges the accent evolved over time, he feels it's being somewhat overanalyzed. Still, he appreciates viewers' attention to detail, emphasizing that such scrutiny is part of what makes the show so engaging. "Lord Karstark killed Robb's honor. Lord Rickard dies," said Robb. "But why?" said Edmure. "You said yourself." "I know what I said, uncle. It does not change what I must do." The swords in his crown stood stark and black against his brow. "In battle, I might have slain Tion and William myself, but this was no battle. They were asleep in their beds, naked and unarmed, in a cell where I put them. Rickard Karstark killed more than a Frey and a Lannister. He killed my honor. I shall deal with him at dawn." Prasnus should have been afraid after realizing Daenerys spoke High Valyrian. "He hears me speak Valyrian." The other slavers were not listening. They crowded around Krasny's and the dragon, shouting advice. Though the Astapori yanked and tugged, Drogon would not budge off the litter. Smoke rose grey from his open jaws, and his long neck curled and straightened as he snapped at the slaver's face. "You are in difficulty," she observed. "He will not come," Krasny said. "There is a reason. A dragon is no slave." And Dani swept the lash down as hard as she could across the slaver's face. Krasny screamed and staggered back, the blood running red down his cheeks into his perfumed beard. The harpy's fingers had torn his features half to pieces with one slash, but she did not pause to contemplate the ruin. "Drogon," she sang out loudly, sweetly. "Dracarys." The black dragon spread his wings and roared. A lance of swirling dark flame took Krasny full in the face. At the end of Season 5, Lena Headey portrayed a humiliated Cersei Lannister forced to walk naked through King's Landing in a brutal public shaming. Though the scene was powerful, Headey used a body double for the nudity. She later explained that the decision was personal, rooted in the emotional demands of the scene, her role as a mother, and her need to stay connected to the character's mindset. Some criticized her for not appearing nude, but Headey emphasized that she was present throughout filming and gave the performance her full emotional commitment.